Sure. I'll talk it out.
Yeah, let's just have a conversation.
Track 3.
Better not be fucking Dave Matthews Band.
Okay. Those of you who don't want to be a part of this can leave now.
Derek, please listen to me.
But if you choose to stay, which it seems like you guys are choosing,
Derek, please.
you understand and agree to the following terms and conditions.
Derek!
1.
Derek, this is the virus
You
talking.
hereby waive your right
Derek, please.
to your own personal bodily integrity.
This is not you.
2.
I'm a life.
Per the state versus Neville Reed, my colleague and I will not be held criminally liable for any felony or misdemeanor that you may be a victim of, including, but not limited to, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, disorderly conduct, destruction of property, mayhem, and first-degree murder. And 3, terms and conditions may change or be updated whenever the fuck I want! Consider yourselves notified.
Hey, DJ Anubis here with my co-host Edgar Allan Poet, the historical oracle.
I am the historical oracle, the spectacular vernacular, the enormous performance. I have come here to drop my knowledge and be wrong massively.
And he's a poet and didn't know it. Also, my other co-host from my other stuff, DJ Neck, was guesting with us yet again.
You also married her, but you know.
Yeah, so I was going to say I'm your co-host for life.
For life.
If anybody who did the NWO back in the day.
Yeah, no.
Welcome to episode 14 of the Poetic Carnage series. And getting ready to get into the NFL this weekend. Does it start tonight or later?
You know,
It might be next week, I think. I don't
I
think
th-
it's.
I th- I think it starts on next Thursday.
Yeah.
They've been starting
Yeah.
on Thursdays now for some reason, and I
Well, it's always usually like a playoff team matchup or something.
It's
Or
a Super Bowl winner versus an interesting matchup.
okay.
Um, yeah. Last year it was the Rams because they won the Super Bowl against the Bills, and the Bills beat the shit out of the Rams.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, my poor NFC team.
So we'll be talking some NFL foosball. We're gonna do our division winners plus who we think are gonna win the Super Bowl this year. Projections.
Broncos.
We
No.
hope. Be nice.
Yep.
Gonna talk a little bit about some college. Haven't really dived too much into the teams this year, the rankings or anything, but we'll see how Virginia does. Hopefully, it's better than the last couple of years. And of course, any other tidbits that we got in there. There's a Urban Meyer documentary we're going to discuss a little bit because
Well, we're not going to talk about the documentary. We're going to just give them a taste because I think we're going to dive deep into it. Now I'm going to rewatch it and take notes because
the thing is though, for Poet, it'd be like a 2-hour long show because he's got a lot to say.
That's what I mean.
Urban.
To really just like right now, we've got a ton of things that we want to get to, but when we talk about the documentary, I want us to like really break it down.
We're gonna do a whole ass episode. I'll be the special guest on that episode. Because that'll
interesting, and I can't wait to see what you think because I asked DJ Anubis, I was like, what does Poet think about
I told you don't like him.
No, he's one of the best head coaches for college football I've ever seen. That is I would give him his due.
Saban's the best.
I said one of the but he's one of the few who could actually stand up to Saban. He beat him
quickly. Do you think he just kind of bit a fin? Because like every time he goes somewhere, there's always like a controversy behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, well, but that's college. I mean, college sports has always been super crooked, right? But if you just leave, if you pull the old Pete Carroll, oh, the sanctions are coming down. Don't mind if I leave. There's that.
And I were talking about that too.
Yeah, that God, he's suing the NCAA. That's one we should also talk about. He's suing the NCAA for defamation of character. Oh yeah, he might win it too. He got fucked. He became the poster child for corruption. And real quick, and then we'll move on. But the NCAA, they were the same organization that said, Reggie, you had an SUV, you had this money. We're taking your Heisman, taking all that stuff away from you. Terrell Pryor broke the rules because he traded memorabilia for tattoos. So who gives a shit? But they're like, oh, fuck. The Buckeyes won't be nearly as big of a draw in a bowl game if they don't have their starting quarterback. So we'll just let him play. That's the NCAA in a fucking nutshell.
Well,
and fuck them.
The same thing. We watched that documentary on Johnny Manziel. Did you watch that yet?
No, I hate Johnny Manziel, but yeah.
You're going to hate him even more. You need to watch it. Because I said the same thing to DJ Anubis. I said, they took Reggie Bush's Heisman away, but this dude is openly admitting to what he did while he was in college and then admitted that his friend agreed to be the fall guy.
Oh, yeah. And his dad was going to do the fake heart attack for him at the combine so he could get out of a drug test.
Yeah.
First up, his parents are wealthy and they failed him. I never thought that Manziel was going to be a good quarterback because he's small and stupid. But maybe if they had raised him like actual fucking parents and didn't let him be like a little frat boy since like he was like 5, he might have panned out. He's apparently doing better with his substance abuse. I wish him and all other people with those issues the best. I don't think that he's truly a bad person. I think he's a spoiled child, yada, yada, yada. But we're here to talk about actual football players who are good. So fuck all that. Where do we get started?
Well, let's get started with, because you brought up TJ Hockenson, and
okay,
I hadn't really looked into it till I did like about an hour or so ago. I went and looked at what was going on, and I'm sure you and I are going to agree on this. This is off the charts crazy. Tight end TJ Hockenson, who plays for the Minnesota Vikings, got a big deal, 4 years for $66 million. Is that? I think that's
Yeah.
right.
He got traded to that team from a division rival. Is how
Detroit,
much they.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so I went and I was just kind of looking at stats a little bit, and I'm thinking, look, tight ends are hard to come by these days. Like really good ones. Like Denver let Albert O go.
I know.
And
it
like
breaks my heart.
I think that's
was
gonna
doing
crush us
okay.
because
Like,
he
really,
might struggle
really well.
with blocking,
Yeah, he-
but if our receivers are all down, we have no one to throw the fucking ball.
But yeah, blocking don't matter if you don't have anyone to throw the ball to or anyone to run the ball. And I you brought up the stats, and I want to talk about that because look, Hockenson can block, okay, and there is value in that. It used to be block first, pass second, and then there were guys like Sharp. Tony Gonzalez was not a great blocker. He became a decent one, but then Antonio Gates, who was like, I have 120 touchdowns in my career. I don't need to block. I need to run down that fucking the middle of the field.
It's all about
it's swapped.
matchups.
Yes.
Dude,
And
Kelsey
if you have a shit,
rushes us. That's why we draft guys like Drew Sanders to
yeah,
keep tabs on this guy.
I know, and it's some of these tight ends are so dominant. Like the Jaguars used to put Jalen Ramsey on Gronk because he was the only corner who just wouldn't get manhandled. But here are his numbers. Okay, now I want to be fair to T.J. Hockenson. He is good. This is not a scrub who got paid. He is good. His rookie year, 12 games, 32 catches, 2 touchdowns. Don't care. He's a rookie. Okay. He's a rookie. Your rookie stats don't mean much unless you do really well. Next year, the only full season he ever played, 16 games, 61 catches, 723 yards, 6 touchdowns. If you take that, if that was his career average, he would be more or less a top 5 tight end, probably closer to 4 or 5 than 1 or 2. Okay. Next year, 12 games, 61 catches, just under 600 yards, 4 touchdowns. Next year, seven games, 3 touchdowns, just under 400 yards. Last season, got traded 10 games, 3 touchdowns, just over 500 yards. He's not worth it. I don't care if he's the greatest blocking tight end to exist. He's not worth it with those stats. He's not worth it with the availability. He's not worth the guaranteed money. Now he has a good he has a good agent.
Stop it.
And he fucked them. That agent put the Vikings over a barrel because they just traded for him. It was a weak free agent class for tight end, especially for someone under the age of 28. They had invested in him. He was going to get paid. He also apparently he went back to practice today. He had some lingering injuries. I don't begrudge that guy. Yeah, you paid.
Much better now.
Yeah, now my bank account is happy. I'm healthy, and that's a tactic. They get to do that, and it's fair. But I'm just saying he magically got right.
Yeah,
it's a bad deal.
Suck it, Kelsey. That's what he's saying right now.
Can I go? Oh,
for
yes,
Necco,
go ahead. Sorry.
Here's the perspective, okay? So Hawkinson's been in the league for 4 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He has 18 touchdowns in those 4 years. Not bad.
No.
But he's now the highest paid tight end in the league. So let's compare him to 3 other dudes, all right? Now,
Yep.
George Kittle, the last 4 years. Some of these guys have played in the league longer, keep in mind. This is just the last 4 years. George Kittle, 26 touchdowns. Mark Andrews for Baltimore, 33.
Yep.
Travis Kelce, 37. He's nowhere near any of that shit.
No,
and those like he's the best guy in the league.
Those are guys. And look, Schefter said that this is a deal that resets the market. The highest total value contract for a tight end is actually Kittle's, but it's filled with so many guarantees and fake money. There's a void on it in 2016. So I read that about 20 million of that. It's on the contract, but it doesn't really exist, right? So it's just salary cap games. The issue that I have with it is Andrews has missed a fair share of games. Kelce has not. He's only missed 1 game, and he's a more elusive guy. He stays in shape, yada yada yada. Kittle has missed a ton of games. And even those guys score way more touchdowns than him. If a tight look, you want your number one wideout to get 10 touchdowns minimum. Anything above 14 is just gravy. For a tight end, it's really more, 7 to 10, maybe 12, and you're cooking, right? Because it is, even though they're basically wideouts, they're not technically wideouts. They're a little bit slower. It takes a little bit longer for them to get down the field. They're not always going to, whatever. In the red zone, they're getting doubled because they're big as fuck, which is value that they give you because it opens it up for other people. But, there's the stats have to be read into. But here's the other problem that I have with Hockenson as well. Okay, he's a tight end. They play a physical position. He's going to miss games. Fine. Okay, he's a really good blocker. Yay. Okay, maybe he's not great at getting into the end zone, but he can do a lot with routes and all that stuff. That's great, whatever. But when is the last time you watched Hockenson? I know he had a monster game last year. Like, he might have gone for like 100 yards or like 200 yards. He had something crazy, and the hype was up because they just got him. But when's the last time you just said, fuck the stats and fuck the contract or whatever? If I could have a tight end in a big game to go nuts and beat matchups like you were talking about, when's the last time you were ever like, yeah, Hawkinson's on that list? Never. Here's a name. He's a recent guy, but he played for a long time. I don't know if he retired. I think he retired. Delanie Walker started his career out in San Francisco. He would do this thing where at the end of the year, you'd be like, pretty good yards, pretty good touchdowns, pretty good catches. And then you'd look at his games played and you'd be like, holy crap, he almost got like 20% of all of his yards in the game. Because every year, without fail, and I remember it because it felt like I always played the fucker who had him in fantasy. He was going for 150 yards and 2 to 3 touchdowns. And you're like, damn, that's the Amari Cooper problem, where so much of your stats come from 1 or 2 games. And yeah, you're still a threat, but like, you're not consistently producing. But at least
here's
Delanie,
thing along that lines, like Hockenson doesn't scare me as a tight end. And even though this next guy has missed a lot of time, he scares me far more, and that's Darren Waller.
Yes, because he has that same. Darren Waller can just win you a game. And that's something that wideouts do. Jamar Chase can just win you a game. Justin Jefferson can just win you a game. What's the name of the wideout? He's Devontae Adams. He is so good, he can win you a game. Except if Josh McDaniels is your head coach, because then he's got 150 yards and 2 scores. Better stop fucking throwing to him, you fucking idiot. But
I don't want to pad his stats too much.
Yeah, I don't want to have to pay the guy. I mean, I know I just had him on a guy, fucking idiot. Fuck Josh McDaniels.
Yes,
fucking bum. But bad coaching, historically bad coaching notwithstanding, there are just some wideouts who could just be like, you can't cover me, and I can beat double coverage, and I'm just gonna go off, and it just is what it is. And some of these tight ends can do it. Travis Kelce single-handedly won that game against the Raiders last year when they're getting their ass kicked. People are like, it was Mahomes' magic. I'm like, no, it's Kelce. Like, he made a couple great throws. I think Mahomes does what Mahomes does.
I think he did it a couple of years ago in the playoffs against Buffalo, and that towards the end of the game, like in overtime. I think they just threw to Kelce the entire time. Yeah,
because
they could not stop him.
It was like Cooper Kupp in the Super Bowl. He's like, okay, they're just going to throw the ball. Yeah,
fuck you. Try to defend him. Go ahead.
Exactly. We're playing 2-on-2. It's this quarterback, this offensive weapon versus your pass rusher and your shitty corner. And if you want to shade your safety over, fine. It is what it is. So it's a bad contract. I'm happy when players get paid. Hockenson, he's a top 10 tight end. Hopefully he can stay healthy because his numbers, to be fair to him, his numbers pro-rate out really well if you average them over a 16-game season.
Well, if he does this the rest of his career, then it's worth it. But, the problem that I have is, it's a lot like the Deshaun Watson deal, only on a smaller scale. But position. But it's like,
and let's rapey.
Let's overpay this guy. Because now we talked about this before, your tight end is getting ready to get paid next year. And now he's looking at that like, oh, I'm better than that guy.
Yeah.
So, this is going to be interesting going forward because Kelsey's getting towards the end of his career, and Kittle's probably about
Oh,
done too.
Kelsey made some comments about his contract could be better the other day.
Yeah. Now he's going to see this. He's like, yeah, I'm way underpaid.
And the bitch of it is that Kelsey can argue, but I'm a finesse tight end. My game will actually age well. Pay me. And that's not an unfair argument. But I'm just looking at guys like for instance, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews, Cole Kmet, Dawson Knox, Njoku, Ingram, Hunter Henry, Ertz. I mean, not so much Ertz now, but old Ertz. Hawkinson's not better or that much better than those guys. Some of those guys could block. So what that would tell me is maybe you draft Hockenson in fantasy. Maybe they're going to throw the ball a lot to him this year.
Well, I mean, you're paying that money. I mean, if I'm Cousins or if I'm the coach, I'm like, we got to get him the ball. Like,
we have to get him the ball.
Yeah, why would you not utilize somebody that you're paying that much money to?
It's and the thing of
unless
it
you're
is
Josh McDaniels.
Unless you're Josh McDaniels and you're like Devontae Adams. For our listeners, I want you to think off the top of your head what you think his stats have been before Aaron Rodgers and after Aaron Rodgers. And then look at those numbers. And he's an example, just like kind of like what Tyreek Hill did last year. Sometimes you can have a great wide receiver and a great quarterback. Sometimes it's not always the quarterback who truly makes him or vice versa. Sometimes you just have two studs and then you win some fucking games. John Elway to Shannon Sharp was a very successful combination. Shannon Sharp was going to be great no matter where he went. The scheme, allowed him to do what he did. John helped him, but him running down the fucking seams going, Raffle, there's a linebacker who runs a 5'2" 40 covering me. That was Shannon. And so it's not the shit on Hockenson. I actually like him a lot as a player. I'm really more shitting on the front office, and I'm not mad at Hockenson for signing that deal. Hell yeah, I'm signing that deal. No, you get what you can negotiate for.
Hey, fuck, Deshaun Watson didn't play a whole year, and look,
right.
Yeah.
I was just getting ready to say that with he and I were speaking the other day about Brock Osweiler, and it's like
that dude made the easiest fucking money in his
career.
He played terribly for Houston. And then had all that guaranteed money, and then they just got rid of him.
Cleveland paid him.
Yeah,
they took that contract, gave it to him.
They did an NBA trade. So the NBA, for the non-NBA fans, it's very common in the NBA to trade for a bad player or a player who has a contract they're just not worth it anymore. Because what you're really saying is we suck. All right. With the caveat of sometimes you just do it because they're still decent and they fill a hole. But mostly you're taking on a player with a bad contract going, they're off the books this year. So you're buying cap space. And then in return, you get a nice draft pick. It's more common in the NBA because of the salary cap differences. And the Browns are like, well, we're ass. And Hugh Jackson is our head coach. So we're not doing any winning. And that's how that trade came apart. Kevin,
I was going to say, I would find it hard to turn down that kind of money.
No,
because you'd have to be an idiot to turn it down.
Idiot. No, because it's a business.
I'm sorry, I'm not really worth that money, guys. Come on now.
No, and teams do players dirty all the time. Like Tom Brady took pay cuts, and Bill was like, "Fuck wide receivers." And he's like, "But Bill, remember when I was throwing the Randy Moss? That was pretty historic." He's like, "Fuck you. You'll throw to the slot." That's what you'll do.
As much grief as I give Lamar Jackson, dude, he has a right to be pissed about what Watson got. He totally pissed off.
Yeah, because he's arguably the better player and less rapey.
He's done more.
Yeah, he didn't take a whole season off. And that's the bitch of it too with Deshaun. at one point he was sympathetic because we're like, wow, the Texans are just screwing him. They traded his weapons. They alienated J.J. Watt, and J.J. Watt was like Mr. Texan for life.
Yeah.
They made horrible choices. The coach won the power struggle against a decent GM. It was terrible. They dismantled what was once a pretty good roster, and then they were like, we don't need to pay you. And then he sat out, and everyone was like, yeah, no, good for you, Deshaun. And then really bad things happened, allegedly, and so on and so forth. But I will say this for Lamar, when he looked at Deshaun Watson's contract, and he was like, I don't care that the Browns pulled a Browns. They went full Cleveland. They did that shit, and it counts, and it's true. They did that shit.
They're setting the standard. They're setting the precedent. This is the league.
Yeah, but that's what the Raiders used to do. So before the salary cap had a limit on what your rookies got in the first round, when Sam Bradford got signed, he signed a contract, and I know he wasn't a Raider, but he got signed a contract that paid him more money than Manning or Tom Brady. And then you had the Raiders, they would pay whatever awful quarterback that they do to fail. Yeah, exactly. And they would do the same thing, or they'd be like, I drafted a Darius Hayward-Bay, ran like a 4.2. And he was definitely a first-round pick. He wasn't a top 10 pick. But they'd be like, I want to pay you as much money as Marvin Harrison. And the rest of the league was like, why? Why do you do this? And now Davis is like, he ran a 4.2. Like, he can't catch. So with that being said, since we're talking about the Raiders, we should talk about real franchises that actually win. What division do you think we should jump into?
Let's start. We'll just start from the top and go on down. So AFC East.
Can I interject 1 second?
Absolutely.
Speaking of contracts, there was something I read recently about how the running back position is the least valued and lowest paid position, and running backs are getting frustrated, and they're all kind of coming together as their own little, I don't want to say union, trying to say, this is what we need to do in order to get recognized in our position. And I forgot who it was who gave the interview, but they were just floored. They're like, we understand we're not the quarterback. We understand our position, and we understand that they're trying to appease the public now with a passing game. But we are still very important, and if we have these stats, we should be paid based on our
The problem is that it's now a lot different. They do running back by committee now. So a lot of that's because of the wear and tear. Like some of these running backs, dude, the days of Emmitt Smith, Terrell Davis, and them just are gone. You just don't think.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, his name is escaping me. A Minnesota guy that left, I think.
Peterson?
No. The recent one.
Oh, Cook. Dalvin Cook.
He was like a main back, but God, he was hurt all the time. And so, if you're Saquon, you can't pay these guys that money. I mean, they do, but
they need their own.
In the ass when they can't stay healthy, and that's the problem.
It's super complicated because the CBA, if you're a first rounder, you get the team option and you're guaranteed money, and if you're a second rounder on out, you don't get as much guaranteed money, but second, third round are still premium positions or premium draft slots, right? So you get the free agency a year earlier, so you get paid earlier, right? It's kind of the give and the take. What you're seeing teams do is abuse. I'm going to call it abuse. It's my opinion. I'm not saying it's fact. It's just my opinion. I go, okay, I draft Saquon, who is a generational talent, and he has some health issues, partially because we run him into the ground and gave him a really shitty line. Did not do some things to help him. And so we're going to run him into the ground, and then we're going to tag him while we don't pay other running backs. And then that brings the way it works is it's a top 5 amalgamation of the salaries, right? And so that's how they run across that number. It becomes a factual number. And so some of the things that really hurt the running backs, it's the fact that it is running back by committee. Like Nick Chubb is probably the best back in football, because of his consistency. But they did running back by committee with Kareem Hunt, who is still a free agent. So, there is a logistical side to what the GMs are doing. Now, when you take it to someone like Jonathan Taylor, where I'm not saying this is true, I'm saying what it looks like. It looks like the Colts lied about what his injury was.
That wouldn't shock me at all.
It's Jim Irsay. It's Jim Irsay. Yep.
Yeah.
It looks like they lied about his injury, and they're doing this thing, and this is patently unfair. Okay, it is unfair to say, I'm not going to pay you for X, Y, and Z. Let's say X, Y, and Z are logical. Okay, that's not where the unfairness comes in. But it is unfair to say, I'm not going to pay you, nor am I even going to enter into any negotiations that even resemble, a logical thought process for an offer that you would sign. I.e., I'm not offering you anything, or if I am, it's a lowball offer that you'd be an idiot to take. Okay, so all of that, it becomes unfair when you go, oh, you're malcontent, blah, blah, blah. You had the weird comment about the owner, Jim Irsay, and Jonathan Taylor dying. That was fucking strange. It's like, put down the scotch, my dude. Where it becomes unfair is then saying, but we will only trade you to a place where if they trade for you, they'd probably give you that deal because they're invested in you. But we're demanding a bunch of premium picks because you're worth that. So I'm fucking you by saying your position's not worth that. So I'm not paying you. I'm not paying you as an individual, but you are worth that. But I won't give it to you or send you somewhere where they will give it to you. That's the double
business,
fucker.
My friend.
It is good business. Now the problem is going to come in to where what I would want to happen is, okay, we're not giving running backs guaranteed money. Or maybe, okay, fine. And the reason for that is Ezekiel Elliott fell off, the Le'Veon Bell debacle, which is its own whole thing. You could do a documentary on the Le'Veon Bell thing, okay? Yeah. But the Le'Veon Bell debacle, all of that stuff. The last running back to get paid an AAV over 10 milli, I think was Chubb. And I believe that was the same offseason that Derrick Henry got the deal that he's on now. So it's been a minute. Chubb is going to be real pissed where he's like, I'm the bastion of consistency and I don't miss games and I can block, run, and catch, and you're not going to pay me. So the owners are lying about the valuation of the position. It's still really, really important. And on the other hand, Isaiah Pacheco just won a Super Bowl, and Clyde's Edward-Helaire, I know he was the 32nd or 31st pick. He was a first round back, but barely. But he lost his job to Pacheco. But there's one extreme of what the owners are doing, and it is good business. You're right.
I say that just in tongue in cheek. I was using the Pirates of the Caribbean.
But it's true.
But there was
true.
There was like this turning point in the 90s, and Denver was a part of that when TD went down. That you had Clinton Portis, then you had Orlando Gary, Mike Anderson, like they started watching these guys. The Chargers had LT, and then behind them Sproles, and they started seeing that. Oh well, maybe we don't have to pay LT all this money because Sproles is just as good, even though he's really not.
No,
but they were saying to themselves, "Oh well, we don't need just one back anymore. We can start doing all this other stuff."
And that's after and LaDainian Thompson is one of my favorite backs ever because you talk about a usage rate. He was running, catching, blocking, throwing. He was. There's a part of Philip Rivers' career where a lot of people said he ain't that good. It's the LT show. It's LT and Gates show. And that, there was some truth there because he got to develop really slowly. Rivers did because of Tomlinson. And so then you look at what happened to other running backs like Eddie George. The Titans ran him into the ground. His career is basically over by the time he was 28. They say 30 is when your career's over as a back. Not with the Titans. That bit 28. That's what makes
there were certain backs that did that. So
Priest Holmes,
the guy
Jamal Lewis,
Adrian Peterson.
And Peterson and some of those guys, Frank Gore, some of those guys were just such fucking specimens, just such fucking Adonises that they were able to extend their career. There's some injury. Like Frank Gore is one of my favorites because he came into the league with a torn ACL. And so that made it that much more impressive. McGahee, Kind of the same thing, and then he was a workhorse back. And there has to be a balance, because if I'm the running backs, if I'm the agents, I'm saying, okay, you don't want to give me guaranteed money because that's the big bugaboo in the league. Fine. So I'm not getting guaranteed money. Then fucking pay me top dollars for 3 years. If you're saying I'm only worth it for 3 years, I agree. $20 million for 3 years. I mean, Quentin Nelson is a fucking guard. One of the absolute least impactful positions, arguably less impactful than a good kicker. And I'm being dead serious. Okay. And he's getting 20 million. And I'll say this for Saquon, because I think he's the one who kind of got fucked the most. You also have to talk about the context of your team. So I know that Daniel Jones is a quarterback, so he's going to get paid more money. And his contract's kind of smoke and mirrors because it's for 3 years. It's really for 2, but he's still getting paid like 25 or 30 million a year, and his stats are bad. But his stats without Saquon are real bad. So there's the joke that if I'm Saquon, I'm calling Daniel Jones like, you owe me fucking money. I don't make me show up at your goddamn house. I will beat the shit out of you in front of your kids. You owe me money.
Sizzler, baby.
Yeah. I need some sizzle with that steak, baby.
All right. Well,
all right. Sorry, I did.
That's okay. That was
it was a great topic.
I thought while we were discussing contracts, I happened to read.
I thought it was germane.
So in the AFC, so the way we're going to do this is,
all right, let me get mine.
Yeah, you go and pull up the division. I want to get your take on this too, Nico.
We're starting with AFC what?
AFC East. So what we'll do is we'll give our from top to bottom who's going to win it and who's going to finish last, and then I want us to pick who we think is going to make the playoffs out of that division.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Poet, do you want to go first?
Are we going to do like AFC East, then West, then North, then South, or are we going to do East and then East?
The way I got it is East, North, South, and West.
All right, so the AFC East teams are the Bills, the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Jets.
Correct.
Okay.
So now you just got to figure out how you're going to rank them.
Okay, so I'm going to pick the Jets to win it.
Okay.
Which I did a month ago. I did not think I would.
Okay.
And my notes are, the Jets are fascinating because a lot of teams think that, if we could just do what we did last season with a better quarterback, we'd be fine. And that's actually a trap. You're not going to necessarily get the same schedule. The teams that you play aren't going to necessarily be as injured, so on and so forth. But the Jets had an elite defense last year, and they have nice pieces. And so I think that what they're going to ask of Aaron Rodgers is to be less MVP Aaron Rodgers and more high-end game manager who can still take over a game when he needs to. So more like Ben Roethlisberger, not his last 2 years where he wasn't all that great, but the last 3 to 4 would kind of be an example. I am picking them because I don't love, but I like their roster. I like the Cook signing because they have Breece Hall, who's coming off of his knee injury, and Cook can still play. He's just not what he was. And so if you can give me 2 backs with a lot of talent in our running back it by committee like we were talking about, there's a lot of value there. So I'll pick the Jets to win it. In second, I almost put the Dolphins, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time picking them, or I almost went with them, but I just don't think Tua is going to last. And that's basically the pick. They also had to put Jeff Wilson, their starting running back, on IR. They have no running backs other than Mostert, who's okay. So the elephant in the room, it's really more like the Buffalo Bill in the room. Right. And I'm not high on the Bills at all this year. They lost Tremaine. I have them as a wild card team. That is a spoiler. But Tremaine Edwards was a big loss. They lost several offensive linemen. They lost a couple guys in their secondary that really matter. The biggest loss is Leslie Frazier, who's a good defensive coordinator, and he said, I'm not coaching this year, but I'm not retiring, which is a piece of drama if you read between the lines. But here's the next step. You've heard me rant about how they don't have weapons outside of Diggs, so I'm not going to do that rant. Dalton Kincaid is apparently they're using him a lot as a slot wide receiver, which I actually like. But Gabriel Davis is not a bad player, but he's not consistent. And so much relies on Diggs and Cook's brother, who I really like a lot, but you're still asking a bad line and a young running back to do a lot for you. With Josh Allen, who has a lot of wear and tear on that tire, and he's gotten banged up a while now. And what makes it worse is that Diggs drama, I think, is a huge deal because he held out or he didn't show up, but then he did. And then there was the miscommunication. And the coach said, I'm really worried about it. And then the coach said, no, I'm not worried about it. And then, the Stephen A. Smith report notwithstanding, which I just think Stephen A. Smith got completely wrong. I think it's pretty clear. There's some tension between Josh Allen and Diggs. And so they're a really talented team.
Yeah.
But you factor in that they're paying Vaughn that much money, as they should have. I don't know if they should have given him the years, but the money made sense if you prorate it. But he's out for 4 games as well. They don't have a bad defense, but their defense used to be really good and they just choked. I don't know if they fixed the choking, and they're kind of low on talent. So I don't view them as a Super Bowl contender per se. Josh Allen can get hot and take you really far, but this is a year where I would have typically looked at the Bills as a 13 or 14 win team potentially. I view them more as a 10 to 12 win team. I think they're going to be a shocker, but I think they're going to be not in the good way. So then you get to, I'll put the Patriots over the Dolphins just because it doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
The Dolphins from number 2 to number 3.
I'm moving them to number 4 because I don't think that I would typically. I think the Patriots roster sucks. Their defense is good. Their offense is unexciting. Their quarterback is trash. Bailey Zappi, who's the same guy as Mac Jones, is also trash. They have zero skill. If the Patriots drop 35 on you, it better be because their special teams and defense had a real good game in terms of scoring. Because otherwise, that's embarrassing, and you should feel bad. But I think that they have Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, who's the same guy. So if one of them gets hurt, you can just put the other one in. Whereas there's only one Tua. So that's what I got.
Neko, how do you see the AFC East panning out?
Oh, I don't know if I could give such a
don't have to really explain. Just
expanded explanation.
Who do you see winning it?
Well, I kind of agree with Poet. I do believe the Jets are going to win. I do. I feel like the Jets last year and now in the preseason and off season, they've made some good, trades. And I mean, they weren't too bad last year at all.
No, they had Zach Wilson. That's what fucked them.
Like everything that's going on with the Jets, it seems like they're on the up and up. So yeah. I agree. I think the Jets in that, I am going to go Jets, Bills, Patriots, Dolphins. Wait, who's the quarterback for the Patriots?
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones right now. And Billy Zappa. It's like it's almost by committee over there.
I know. I might flip it because I really feel like when the Dolphins have their shit together, they really have their shit together, and they've had so maybe it might be Jets, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots. That's how.
Right, no, absolutely.
That's how I got it. Yeah, but I actually have the Jets and the Bills both making the playoffs. So
yeah, and I was
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, there's 7 spots altogether, but obviously your division winner gets an automatic bid, so the Jets would be an automatic, with the Bills being a wild card.
So
yeah. Yeah. Real quick, I will add that a lot of the issues with Aaron Rodgers is that he's kind of a pouty hoe, and he seems to love it. Yeah, he does, and he was defending Hackett from the unfair, brutal Sean Payton slander, the hateful, venomous attack. So it feels like the vibes are good.
I mean, if we fucking end up playing the Jets in the playoffs, we're gonna regret that shit.
You play them in the regular season, so that's going to be amazing.
All right. Ooh, AFC North. I know how this is gonna be.
That's tough. Bengals, Steelers, Ravens, Browns.
Yeah, it's always a dogfight in that division.
So
let's go Neko first.
I'm gonna start from the bottom, the Browns.
Yep.
That's
about right.
I mean, even when any other team sucks, because the Steelers have had bad years too, and the Ravens and the Bengals, they've all had bad years. The Browns are always really bad.
Yep.
So this year, God, the Bengals last year. This is so tough. Okay, I might go like this: Bengals, Steelers, Ravens, Browns, in that order. I think that's what I want to do. Bengals,
Not a
Steelers,
bad pick.
Ravens, Brown.
That's exactly how I have it.
Oh my God! It's like we're married or something.
Well, there's a part of me. I love Joe Burrow, but there are some concerns there if they can even keep the guy upright.
Yeah, Joe Burrow has a bad offensive line. Tell me if you heard that one again.
But then there's another part of me because of my boy over here that I would love Kenny Pickett. I don't mind the Steelers. I actually like the Steelers as a franchise. I'm not one of those people that hate them like a lot of people.
We do too. Like it's funny
because I still just until Amar takes that final step, and it could happen this year. They've got some weapons.
There's no excuses for him. The only excuse is going to be if all three of his starting wide receivers and tight ends get hurt, then I'll feel real bad for the guy. It has to be something catastrophic. Yeah, because there's a point you have to lift up to.
But he's going to have to go out there, and he's going to have to it's always a dogfight. This is so much when you talk about parity in the NFL. The AFC North is like the biggest one of parity. Like the Browns can steal one from you, just don't expect it. Yeah. And they do have Deshaun Watson, so. It's
he won't rape anybody this week.
Yeah,
well, he won't do it on the field. He'll do it in the locker room or something. But yeah. So, Poet, what do you got for your AFC North?
So I have the Bengals winning by a game. I'm concerned for Joe Burrow's health. Last year the Bengals spent a lot of investments on that offensive line. They got La'el Collins at right tackle. He was really bad. He was really bad. It's one of the biggest disappointing signings. He was bad.
Real quick before you continue, I didn't give the two playoff teams out of here are the Bengals and Steelers. I have them both going in the playoffs.
Right. We have some similar stuff. So I'm gonna pick. They got Orlando Brown from the Chiefs, and he's their left tackle. Now Brown was good in Baltimore. They didn't want to pay him, and so he went to Kansas City. Kansas City 2 off seasons ago now gave him a huge offer. Brown bet on himself, and he did not take it because that was his best year as a pro, and he had been pretty good. This last year, if you talk to Chiefs fans or the people who followed the games, and it's not just all Reed, Mahomes, and Kelsey, Brown was good, but he was not great. That's why the Chiefs let him walk, and the Bengals gave him a big contract, but Taylor from Miami is who the Chiefs went with for basically, I think, a very similar deal. So Brown Jr. is Orlando Brown is really, really good, but he's not an elite top 5 left tackle. He's got some concerns. And Kansas City and Baltimore are really well-ran, good franchises. So the question is it going to be like La'el Collins, where you get there, he's had a good track record, but he's not nearly as good for whatever reason. Maybe it's chemistry. Maybe it's like, fuck you, I got paid. Maybe it's because the guards are ass and like he's actually having a good year, but he has to do 2 jobs. I don't know. And so with all that being said, they still have Joe Burrow. They still have Joe Mixon, who's a very versatile running back. They have Jamar Chase, who I think Jamar Chase is the best wideout in football. I know Justin Jefferson is the factor. My response to that has always been similar stats. Justin Jefferson gets targeted more, and in the playoffs, Jamar Chase is arguably the best wideout going. I mean, he's a playoff god, and that does matter. So I am going to take them to win the division barely. But I will give you a spoiler. I have 2 teams coming out of the AFC. Actually, no, it's 3. I'm going to have the Bengals winning the division, the Steelers second. They're going to get the first wild card slot, and then it's going to be the Ravens third. I'm going to put the Browns at the back end because their roster is not bad, but it's closer to bad than it is good. Amari Cooper is not a number 1 wide receiver. If you look at his stats, he's never really hit 1,200 yards. He's never hit 10 touchdowns. His splits, he only performs at home.
I think the thing about the Browns is, and it's the same story for the last few years because they've had talent there.
Yes.
It's a matter of coaching, and then it's a matter of the 3 teams they got to compete for that fucking division. It's a dogfight. It's just ridiculous.
Division.
Yeah. It is.
And I will say this for them as well. They had Denzel Ward Jr. is coming off of a bad year. I don't know if he's going to go back to form. They lost Javion Clowney. Myles Garrett is an animal, but he can only do so much. I don't see a second pass rusher. I don't see any special linebackers. I don't see any special safeties. I don't see Elijah Moore is a good wideout, so he's a good number 2. He's not special. Cooper's not special.
He came from the Jets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have Deshaun Watson, who was awful last year, and he's looked terrible this camp. He's looked real bad. And if it wasn't for the Russell Wilson fascination of all of that, we'd be spending more time talking about how bad Watson is. But I also think that we don't cover Watson as much just because it's like then you have to talk about that other thing. So the Browns are they're going to be a really tough 6-win team. But that's what they are to me. It's a 6-win team. I got the Ravens at 3rd. They don't have a number 1 wideout. They have 3 number 2s, which is a viable way to have a team. They have Andrews, who is arguably the 2nd best tight end in football. Dobbins is healthy. They have a healthy running back stable. Their offensive line's pretty good. It's weird to say the weakness is really, other than Lamar Jackson's health and the new system, the biggest issue is on defense. They lost a lot of guys. They lost Calais Campbell, who was still pretty good and a leader. They lost their longtime. Like I had a list. They're in my wild card slot. Oh yeah, they lost Marcus Peters and Kyle Fuller. So Peters was a long time good corner, or not a long time, but he's a pretty good corner, and he's not there. Yeah, he's so up or down, but they just don't have the secondary. And
which is the story of their life.
yeah, exactly. And even when they have it, then one of them gets hurt. I view the Ravens as like one of the teams you don't want to play in the postseason. Like that's going to be nasty.
It's good coaching. Like it just comes down to coaching. So
yeah, they're disciplined.
There, but like, you don't. It's a buzzsaw. When we talked about last year when the Vikings played the Giants, you and I both said the Giants will win that game.
Yeah,
and that's because it comes down to coaching. It comes down to just a mentality, and like we knew they would push the Vikings around.
They ran all over them boys. Yep. All over them boys.
AFC South. I will tackle this first. This is
a fun division.
So many young quarterbacks.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Yeah. Is this division, at least out of the AFC, the exact opposite of the AFC North? Because I feel like it's the polar opposite.
But you're right, though. This is going to be a fun one to watch because there's, like I said, you have 3 teams with new quarterbacks. Jacksonville has like a quarterback that's only been there. They're going to his 4th year, I think.
This will be his 3rd. He had the horrible rookie year. Last year was a sophomore. Yeah.
So there's some young quarterback. And so like it was the most difficult to try to put together and say, oh my God, how's this going to play out?
Yeah.
But this is how I got it going. Jacksonville will win this division. And they will be the only playoff team coming out of it.
Yes.
But it's not because there's no faith in that quarterback, but they're just young. And it's all going to be a growing, painful process for them this year. I think that Stroud is going to be the real deal. We talked about this during the draft.
Yeah.
So Houston is at my number 2 spot. It's going to be all of them are going to start out slow probably, and then they're going to start picking up a little bit. But that's pretty much how it's going to play out. You're probably looking at 3 teams here that probably won't win more than 5 games. Like it's all going to go to the rest of the conference. So, so Houston at number 2. I have Tennessee at number 3, and then Indianapolis at number 4.
Ooh, so you have the Titans falling off real hard.
Yeah, I do. Again, it's like obviously Malik is not the answer. Whoever they picked up, I do kind of like. I did like
Levis.
Yes, I think he's going to be okay.
But they're trotting out Tannehill over the hill.
So and that's the thing too. They'll probably be competitive for a while, but then they're going to start getting to that point where we need to do something different because we're just not winning games.
Yeah,
that kind of bit him in the ass last year.
This is the trap. Do you care if I go second? I want you to finish. Okay. All right.
I just have Jacksonville being the only team coming out.
It's okay. So this is what fucks Tennessee because I have them. I think we're all going to go Jacksonville number 1 because they're the only one with a a Super Bowl winning coach, a stud quarterback, and offensive weapons, right?
And they've been in the playoffs, so they kind of
Yeah, they made it last year. The Titans have an older roster. They've been descending. 4 years ago, Tannehill was a shot in the arm, and it's just been after Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase broke them in that playoff game. I feel like they never recovered.
And it's like, after a while, you kind of knew that Derrick Henry was the horse that they're trying to ride, and he's not going to last forever.
No, and he has up until this point, but this is what's going to fuck them. So I'm an offensive coach guy. I used to be a defensive coach guy when defense really was winning championships. Now it's more offensive centric, although you can have a great defense and a strong off. I don't feel like you can win with an all-time defense and a bad offense anymore, right? I feel like your offense has to at least be solid and have some actual strengths to it.
Right.
But Tennessee, they have Derrick Henry, who I've kept predicting he's going to fall off. Okay, he's maybe looked like an asshole too many times, and I love that guy. So until it happens, it's like with Tom Brady or LeBron James. It's like until it actually happens, I'm just going to say no, it's not. And I'll be wrong once, and a lot of people keep being wrong year after year after year. Okay, So they have a pretty good line. It's not as good as it used to be, but Henry and an excellent defensive coach is one of the few defensive head coaches who's actually worth having. And I feel like the Titans are going to be stuck in mediocrity land where they're 500, give or take a game, for a while now, even if they go and pivot to a new quarterback, because the supporting cast is so good. Burks looks pretty good. They got Hopkins, and I think he can still play. It's more about availability than overall ability at this point. I feel like their roster and their coaching is so good that they can't take that natural progression and just bottom out. And that's actually bad for them in the long term. But they're going to be one of those bad, mediocre teams they're going to beat like a really strong regular season team at least once or twice this year.
Part of my fear is, like, do you remember? I think it was them that played Houston last year, and I think they either almost lost or did lose to Houston. And it was like a really game they should not have lost.
That was them and the Chiefs. They both did that because the Chiefs, it was bad. Then you get to the funnest team though, is the Colts. Because you have all the Jonathan Taylor drama, then they put him on IR, which then just decreased his trade value that much more. You have Anthony Richardson, who's going to be coming. I think the Colts have a good line. I think the Colts did not have as good of a line as we thought that they would last year. Some of that was coaching. Some of it's just a talent level. So he's going to have an interesting line selection. They don't have a real number one wideout or number one tight end, which is bad. They don't have arguably an elite running back, which is real bad. Okay, their defense is just fucking carried by 3 players. They're fucked. And so that poor kid is going to run around with no one to throw to. He's a raw rookie, and he's going to be kind of like Justin Fields was, where it's like maybe he's amazing, maybe he can develop, maybe he is amazing, but they're going to ruin him, so you'll never know. But he's going to run for a lot of yards. He's going to run for a lot of yards and some touchdowns, and you're going to start him on fantasy, even though he's not that great at this point. I feel really bad for him because it's like watching your buddy walk down an alley and you know he's going to get his ass kicked and you're not close enough to stop it. That's how I feel. Like he is going to get brutalized. And then you go to the Texans. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's just so funny because when you think about, because her and I talk about it at times, is like, Cleveland's usually where you go, the place you go to die,
Yeah.
But Houston or Indy now is almost like it seems like a good place for players to land, unless you're a quarterback. Like you just don't want to be there.
It's terrible.
You see the way they treated Peyton, and then you saw what happened with Luck, and it's like, I fear for this guy because the franchise is not really that bad. It's not like Cleveland bad, but dude, they don't care about their quarterbacks. Like they like
don't.
You so much until they don't.
And then Carson Wentz. Got to remember. Okay, I was a Carson Wentz guy, and I swear to you, at one point he was really that dude. His body failed him, and then apparently he's a huge, arrogant asshole, which is not a great combination. Okay, but he went there. They traded a first for him. He almost got them into the playoffs, but for that horrible Jacksonville game. But we don't remember that he wasn't horrible at the start of the year when the rest of the team was, okay? That's where he broke. And then he went to Washington. He was just comically bad, where his stat line would be good, but at the end of the game, like those horrible fumbles that he just dropped the ball for no reason, or that pick he threw where it was like his brain was like, throw it there, and his arm was like, nah, baby, I do what I do. I throw it there. Just things that like you thought that he had money on the game, he owed the mob money. It was bad. And then you had Phillip Rivers, who was like, I got a lot of kids, so I need the money.
His wife is pregnant again, by the way.
God.
Baby number 10.
He's winning with the kids, man. Let me tell you.
Number 10. 10 fucking kids.
Kids. Do you? No, I'm not gonna ask
money.
that. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that. I respect a family man. Shout out to Nomad. I feel like if Nomad was a quarterback, he would be Phillip Rivers. Rich with a huge, wonderful, large family. Shout out to Nomad.
So Phillip Rivers had his first child when he was still in college, and she's 21 now.
Yep.
And they're gonna have a newborn.
He's a religious man. He takes the be fruitful thing very seriously.
Big time.
He is apparently a great father. He started making decisions on his career based on what he could do for his kids.
Oh, yeah.
He is a wonderful, wonderful man. Hearing him talk trash, he doesn't cuss, so it's hilarious. Dadgummit, you're such a bum. It's hilarious because he's really mad. You really think he's calling you horrible. You don't got offended by being said dadgummit before.
Cutler got so pissed half the time.
Yeah, Cutler had.
Why don't you cuss?
Cuss.
Like you're making fun of me now.
Yeah, and if Cutler had the same mentality and heart that Rivers did, Cutler would have had an amazing career. But he was a pouty hoe, and he's a very rich pouty hoe, but he is a pouty hoe. Then
like his number.
When Deion Sanders called him out for throwing a horrible pick and then bending over and adjusting his socks, and Deion Sanders, it was something like, I've won Super Bowls, and you're throwing picks like that, and you're just adjusting your socks. And it was just that head shake said everything you needed to know. But then we get to the Texans, who are bad, but they're fun bad. Damian Pierce, pretty good running back. I can't remember the tight end's name, but he's a pretty good player. They picked him up. I think he came over from Dallas. Stroud, I like Stroud an awful lot. They traded that pick to draft Will Anderson Jr. They got some fun pieces.
Well, that's the thing about this year, man. Like a lot of these other games, I normally wouldn't give a shit about that much, but now you got all these young quarterbacks, and I'm curious how they're going to play.
Some of them have to be good, right? And that's what makes it fun. And the thing of it is that there's bad football and there's fun bad football. Unwatchable bad football is like Cleveland Brown, Hugh Jackson era, where it's like they're just bad, they're getting beaten up, you feel like it's a snuff film. Like the first quarter's fun because you're like, how'd you let them score 21 points in 5 minutes in the first quarter? But at the end of the game, it's like, wow, it's like I watched someone's grandpa just fall down the stairs, right? It's just brutal. Fun bad football is where you're like, well, you know what? We're down by 4 scores. My quarterback's got a cannon. He's going to hit a couple dumb throws, but it's okay for him to throw it because we're down by that much. Oh, my cornerback got a pick 6 because he's just gambling because it doesn't fucking matter. Our season's been over for 2 months. Ha ha, we beat the insert playoff team. And you're like, yeah, that's a horrible brand of football, but a lot of cool shit happened.
So what do you have? Do you have Jacksonville, Tennessee, Indy,
I'm gonna take Houston over Indy.
Okay.
Because I am Michael Pittman Jr. Like, I know I rant a lot about wide receivers, and I know that the Texans don't really necessarily have a great one, but there are more dependable weapons on Houston for their youngster than for Indy, and Houston didn't shit all over their stud running back and make him not want to play football. So I'm edging it. A good running game helps quarterbacks still to this day. One team has it, or at least should. That's where I'm going.
And it's
I
also
just
to be noted that, you know, we see it with like all-time greats like Elway, Manning, Brady. Like sometimes you have to help out your young receivers. So no matter if they're kind of average, you can make them stars if you're good.
yes, you have to
So,
do that. You
all
have
right,
to do that.
Neko, how do you see the AFC South panning out?
Well, this is a group of teams that I don't give two shits about.
Hey, you like sunshine?
Occasionally, I don't know. Like, I agree with the Jaguars. Like, they've had so much potential, and last year, what were they? Last year, first in the division.
Yeah,
I think they won the division. Yeah.
they won a division, then they came back against the Chargers, which was beautiful.
So,
Oh God, I laughed
Much
so
to
hard.
Poet's chagrin, but
I feel
No, I loved it because I was watching with my buddy who just got back into football. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Nico. I got back into football, or my buddy got back into football, and he loves sunshine, and so he was really upset
he
that
was bummed. Yeah,
he was getting because he was like, no, I really like Trevor Lawrence. He's a really cool. I watched him in college, a little yada yada yada, and I'm like, hold on, man, this is the Chargers. So they probably are going to win, but there's still like a 49% chance that they're going to fuck this up. And I had to. And they did. And to quote you, there's precedent for this. This is what they do. That's what they do. And so, Nico, go ahead. That's one of my favorite football stories ever to tell. You are muted. Okay.
No, I'm up. I'm good.
I know. I'm fucking with you.
Anyway, so again, I don't pay attention to this division hardly at all, but I think I'm going to go probably Jaguars, Titans, Colts, Texans. Does that sound about?
Yeah,
no, that makes that's a good pick.
I mean, really, when you get down to Houston, Tennessee, and Indy, it could be anybody.
Yeah, it really could.
I mean, Tennessee. I get Tennessee's point because, like, if Tannehill's a veteran, and if he can keep them afloat, they're probably going to finish second. But I just have a feeling that his clock is run out with him.
I do too, and I also think though, if everything goes to plan with the Titans, and the only reason I know anything about the Titans is because one of the podcasts that I listen to, the host likes the Titans. They'll talk about them, and I'm like, okay, well, these are great players, and you know, if everything comes to fruition, then maybe you've got like a halfway decent season.
Well, did you like the DeAndre? Do you think the DeAndre Hopkins signing is going to do anything for him?
I don't know. I don't follow him that closely. I know that's terrible. All I worry about.
Well, speaking of which, AFC West.
Yeah.
Let's start with Neko.
Hold on? Should I give like
your honest projections?
Just pick the Broncos. Just say, fuck it, we're doing it.
Do it already.
Just do it.
The losers are going to be the Raiders.
That's on brand.
Yeah.
And then the Chargers are going to come in third place.
Oh, that's spicy. I don't hate it, but that's spicy.
The truth is, Kansas City will be in first place and the Broncos will be in second place. But honestly, it's probably going to be I think it's going to be like Kansas City, Broncos, and Chargers will kind of fight a little bit because they're both like equally mediocre, and then the Raiders will be down. But my dream would be that the Broncos beat the shit out of the Chiefs every single time and they're first place, because that would put them up in the division. But it's not going to happen. Like, look at the difference between the quarterbacks. Like,
well, I'm going to tackle this before Poet does.
I'm
There's
done.
actually
I'm
a
done?
running theme going around on YouTube.
Oh no, I don't.
They
watch
think
YouTube
Denver is being underlooked at. They think that people are overlooking them, and it's a good bad thing, because every year we go in, and Poe and I talk about this all the time with the Cowboys, is everyone thinks the Cowboys are there to win it all every fucking year.
Yeah, but it never happens.
So sometimes when you say, oh, well, this team, like, they do this shit with the Chargers sometimes too. It's like, Chargers are gonna be so good. They're gonna come out and win that division, but they never do.
Let's be honest.
So, do I say to myself, am I hesitant about putting Denver into like, oh yeah, we're gonna make some noise? A little bit, but and at the same time, I'm thinking we got to be better. There's anywhere but up from right now from where we were last year. It's all about health. So I look at it a lot like, a lot of these other teams that, usually make a lot of noise, but they get injuries a lot. So whether or not we stay healthy is the one thing. But I have two teams coming out of this division for the playoffs. Kansas City is going to win it. There's just Mahomes is the man. Like, it's just he is.
He's working his way into elite status.
I like the kid. I fucking hate the Chiefs. I hate they fucking have him. I hate that they got fucking Super Bowls. Chief fans can suck my fucking dick.
Wow.
But
with consent, we do not approve of the Deshaun Watson method of dating on this show. You can consensually gargle his dick and balls from the back. However, but I'm just laying that out there.
From the back.
But they're going to win, and they're not just going to win. They're going to win home field throughout the playoffs.
Yes.
Denver's going to finish second. We will make the playoffs.
We'll be like a wild card.
Yeah, we'll be a wild card. Chargers are next, and then, of course, the Raiders.
I love how we're both like the Raiders.
Well, look, it's funny because Poe and I talk about this last couple of years. Is I'm not a big Derek Carr fan, but he's better than fucking Garoppolo.
Oh, Jesus, yes. Yes.
So I think the Raiders, they settled. Like, they wanted Derek out of there. They couldn't get anybody they want. I'm sure they tried to go get a draft guy. They tried to do it, but
they were going for Rodgers and Brady. It's who they whiffed on both.
And so now you're stuck with Jimmy G, who's an average player, and he can make a little noise, but considering, again, you got a tough division.
And you don't have anybody else to help them.
And even if Russ is like just halfway better than he was last year, our defense is still nasty.
Yeah.
And also, we've got a real coach.
Yeah. If you look at that last preseason game, the calls that were being made, this is with all the backups. Like, Russ didn't even play.
I couldn't believe
So
it.
you have who I like, the kid from Auburn, that's our backup, Stidham. He looked great in that offense. So I'm like, I know it's preseason, but we couldn't do what we did this year or last year to preseason, so I'm already feeling better about it. Poet, AFC West, what do you got?
So I have the Raiders in last place. I think that they are a 4-win team. I think that there is a chance that their season goes so poorly that they pick number 1 overall. Devontae Adams might go nuclear. He might just go insane, which I wouldn't blame him. They traded Darren Waller away for absolutely nothing. They didn't want to pay him. They've alienated Josh Jacobs, who overachieved last year, but he's still a good back. Their offensive line is, I will, out of generosity and not wanting to be a hater, I will say that they could be average to slightly above average, but it will not be a true strength.
That's the thing they got over there, except for Max Crosby, who's a
Yep, that's right. And here's the issue with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I hate Jimmy Garoppolo in terms of how he's covered as a player. He's not a winner. He's an absolute loser. He has made some of the worst interceptions and turnovers in crucial moments in NFL history. Much worse than my guy Peyton Manning, but Garoppolo wasn't a number 1 pick, so no one fucking cares that he's wasting a beautiful roster and could never carry one.
I will never forgive him for blowing a 20-3 lead against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I would never
missing that wide open bomb. And I don't know if that would have won the game, but it would have made it a whole different game.
Yeah.
Garoppolo has safetied himself. He's thrown bad picks. He's had horrible fumbles. In the clutch, he misses guys wide open. I mean, he has at least one game losing play. And a lot of times the Niners are so good they could overcome it. But he is a bad quarterback. He is a bad quarterback who looks decent because of how a lot of these statistics are formulated. They overly value efficiency. And when you're a scrub-ass scrub, shout out to beloved Jaded, and all you do is dink and dunk, you can inflate your efficiency even though you're actually being inefficient because you're holding back your fucking offense. So he's going to go out there. He's going to lose them winnable games. He's going to get hurt. They don't have a real backup. He's going to come back. He's still going to be ass because that's what he does. He's going to waste Devontae Adams. He's not going to be able to go ahead and do anything that remotely looks like what he did in New England or in San Francisco. He is not a top 20 quarterback. Even though a lot of people in the
McDaniels
media
is gonna fucking just
and then they have McDaniels, one of the worst head coaches of all time, and their defense consists of 2 players. So they are a 5 or 6 win team. They do have some talent some places, but things can go really bad, especially with McDaniels, that it could crater and go that way. Third, I'm going to take the Broncos. I don't like Russ and Sean Payton's system. I don't like the fact that Russ reportedly still has the mentality that he wants to be a throw-first quarterback and not use his legs and mobility. I know that Payton is going to call the plays that Payton wants. He's not going to pull a Hackett and try to appease his quarterback. So there's going to be more naked bootlegs, more opportunities for Russ to do what he does. But one of the other concerns I have for Russ, he's in better shape. He's not doing his stupid gimmick. He's not being selfish. He doesn't have his stupid little offense and his diva squad or his extra special masseuses and all that shit. Sean Payton said no. But he declined a little bit in Seattle.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
For shits and giggles, let's say first 6 games of the season, the Broncos go 3-3.
Yeah.
Russell's not playing very well.
Yeah.
And this, I know the Bronco board, if they watch this, they're going to freak the fuck out, but I have to do it. Let's say Jarrett Stidham comes in. He's a different type of quarterback than Russ. He's a little bit bigger. Has a pretty good arm, but he plays a bit differently. Do you have any faith that with Stidham that the team turns it around? Would you switch your spots if Stidham came in instead of Russ?
I'm going to say no, because Stidham doing well would be such a shocker to me. I feel like he's an NFL guy, but he's more of a journeyman backup guy. Mm-hmm. But let's say that happened. Let's say Russ gets hurt, or he's really bad, or he's okay, but he does some of the turnovers that Peyton won't accept, and he makes that pivot. And Stidham gets hot, and he kind of does a Purdy where it's like, we know that you're not this good, but you're on this tear type of thing.
Right.
Then I would look at them and I would go, well, the AFC is brutal. Can you attrition your way into a wild card? And while I would still bet no, it would be within the realm of possibility and not just any team could make it. So, because that's been something that's been floated on some talk shows before, because there's a report that came out that Peyton is not married to Russ. Like, he'll say what he needs to say, try to give him a boost, but his job is to fix Denver, not Russ, and that he's going to be there longer than a lot of the players who are currently on the team are because of that big-ass contract he got. So it is interesting.
The thing I do know is
his pick.
No, but also
he came into Russ.
From what I understand is because of the contract Denver has, they can get out of it pretty safely after the end of this year. So if Russ doesn't work out,
they're gonna take. It's gonna be a huge cap hit, but if Russ doesn't work out, you're gonna be bad anyway. So it doesn't matter. At that point, you're just gonna be let's get picks. Let's trade some guys. Let's hit a hard reset button, which Denver never did post Super Bowl. Elway wouldn't. Regardless of what you think about it, Elway just flat out would not hit the reset button.
Well, thing is, on that is that shit, dude. Brock missed the opportunity of a lifetime. It was his fucking team. Peyton was retiring.
It might have been different if he stayed.
For whatever reason, we have another quarterback. Now, I'm not saying Brock was the answer, but you have another quarterback who gets fucking butt hurt when he's actually the second guy. Peyton is the man.
Yep.
You don't get to say, oh, you shouldn't have pulled me. I know it wasn't all his fault in that Charger game, but it's fucking Manning, dude. It
switched the momentum. And he had 3 turnovers, 2 of which weren't his fault. You had a missed block. You got blown up. Didn't the ball go off of a receiver's hands and it was just like a fluky pick? And then he made one bad play. And with a bad line, and why the wideouts weren't having a good. Demaryius Thomas, rest in peace to my boy, had a bad drop, I believe. I know, maybe it wasn't him, but there were some bad drops in that game as well. It was literally Brock Osweiler doing better than you thought, but then it was like the defense was playing well. We could put Manning in, and then he threw that horrible touchdown like on third down, or maybe it was a touchdown, but that quailing duck, but it only worked because he was doing the mental magic. It just is what it is. And then Osweiler was like, the Texans want to pay me what? Okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People the team saw Manning come in. It's like the mentality changed, and that's just sometimes what you need. Like that's just how it is.
It is.
Remember when you were saying like with TD during the Super Bowl, or it was one of the years ago. They're like, you know, he's like, man, I really have a migraine right now, and the coach is like, just go in. They're gonna think we're gonna throw it to you.
Super Bowl,
yep.
It was the Super Bowl. It was the Super Bowl.
Yep.
He was like, having a headache, migraine, and Shanahan said, "Look, you're just going in there. You're not doing anything. They just think you're gonna do something." So they, and that was like the rollout that John had, and it like worked. Like
it was beautiful. What a horrible time I know he had migraine issues, but what a horrible time to get a migraine. For those who don't have migraines, I get them. I don't get them as bad as I used to, but sometimes I've had them so bad I lose vision in an eye. So they can be. I mean, they can be like to the point where it's not safe to go down a flight of stairs. You know, so it's not
safe to say you've got Denver in third. So you
and it's the line too, because Garrett Bowles is hurt. I think he's shot, and I'm a Garrett Bowles apologist. I've because I've been right. I just want to give myself a pat on the back for that. But there's the wide receiver stuff is troubling. You guys are so snake bit. Thank God you drafted what was his name, Mims, talented kid. Thank God you drafted Mims. I also just think that you're in a tough division too, because the Chargers, you have a head coach who's really not that great. He used to take a lot of gambles. Then some of them didn't pay off, and he got gun shy. But Herbert's a stud. The line is healthy. The defense is stacked. The Austin Eckler is a touchdown machine. And while Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, my guy Keenan Allen, have a lot of health issues, usually at least one of them's healthy. They drafted Quentin Johnson. They have a tight end that they like. The Chargers feel like a team who will underachieve but still get to the playoffs. And then I'm not going to spend time talking about the Chiefs. We know what the Chiefs are.
Yeah.
See, Neko, this is why I love Poet, because I'm gonna fucking ride him all year long. We just got done talking about the Jacksonville Jaguar game, right?
Oh no.
Yep.
This is the second-year quarterback. They came back and beat that ass in the fucking playoffs.
Yep.
And now he's putting the same team above my Broncos.
I am. I almost put y'all.
Charger. They're gonna fucking be third. Just get used to it.
I don't think they are
down there.
Here's the problem. So here's the deal, because I'm putting the Raiders. I'm putting the Raiders at 4 wins. Okay.
Oof. I can see that though.
I'm putting Denver at 5.
5 wins?
I'm putting Denver at 5.
You can lick my fucking nuts.
Yeah. And if you have 2 testicles, that's what you're going to be saying to her when you're losing all those fucking games in the regular season, motherfucker.
Oh my God. I'm changing my Steeler pick. Fuck this.
That's fine. I hope we can play you that vaunted Russell Wilson offense. Hey, we have a tight end who can run down the field, so I know you're going to automatically not enjoy that game.
Oh, Drew Sanders can keep up with him.
The
only thing that fears me is TJ Watt all over Russell Wilson's shit.
Wilson. But then maybe you knock him out and the better quarterback comes into play.
Jaded just like lost his shit right there.
Shit. Oh, yeah. By the way, Jaded, TJ Watt still much better than Myles Garrett. Suck it, asshole. I love you though. Here's the real issue that I have with your team.
I'm not your friend anymore.
That's okay. It's all right.
Stand up.
I have a bulldog. I don't need friends. Bam.
I have my headphones in, fucker, so I can't hear you.
Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the thing. I have a dog, and both of you are bitches. How about that? Fucking write that down. Fucking put it in the Christmas.
He's gonna shut up the minute you get back on air.
No, I'm not. I'm not shutting down. I'll call my offensive line to protect me. We have good players on it now. I'm scared about the. I'm scared about the Javonte injury. I'm scared about the Bowles injury. I'm scared about the wide receiver injuries.
Did you see any of the preseason for the Broncos?
I did.
So what did you think of the young guy we picked up, McLaughlin?
I think that there's a chance he might have something, but I don't know if he's going to be something this year. It's just 3 weeks ago, I would have had the Broncos at probably 8 wins or so. It's the no Tim Patrick, the Jerry Jeudy. When he comes back, it's still a lingering injury. And I'm also with the presupposition. Oh, go ahead.
So sorry, I'll let you go back. But yeah, I mean that's concerning. But you remember when Drew Brees had almost no receivers? Also, they were dropping like flies, and
Yeah, it was rough.
They were
That's
able to
right.
keep playing.
But they had 3 All Pros.
But
They had 3 All Pros on that offensive line. Is the only difference. And here's the thing. I'm having you guys at a low win total because I think circumstances have fucked you more so than I think your roster is bad. You're also in a tough division too. Because keep in mind, while I don't think a lot about the Raiders, there are people who are picking them 3rd or 2nd in that division. So they're probably better than what I'm saying. It's just that they have Josh McDaniels, so I really don't care, right? It's like if you have Josh McDaniels and then you have not Tom Brady, then you get fucked. It's like a math equation. So I am kind of being playful and tweaking your guys' nose. However, with that being said,
if we get more than 5 wins, I'm so dragging my nuts across your face.
I mean, if that's your Super Bowl, that you get to 6, like you're like, yeah, I won the last game of the year. I got 6. I beat Kansas City when they were resting their starters.
Week 17, I'm like, we need this win so I can just do this.
You know what? And I will be atop my wild card spot, looking down at you, going 6 wins. Tomlin's never had a losing season. I don't know what 6 wins are.
Though. If Cleveland wins more games than Pittsburgh, I'm like,
oh, it's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be fucking terrible. You won't have to troll me. I'll be trolling me.
All right, who are we doing next?
NFC conference, and we're gonna start with the East, and I'm going first. I think
NFC East.
This is the only division I think that I have 3 coming out for the playoffs.
Okay.
So.
Oh wait, who do we have coming out of the? Are we doing Super Bowl winners and conference winners after? Okay.
I didn't choose conference winners, but I did choose my Super Bowl.
Okay.
Okay. So you can do it any way you want. It doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
Okay. So let's see. I did say Broncos and Chiefs. Okay. So in the NFC East, I have the Eagles winning it again, playoff bound, of course.
I do too.
Now this was a crazy division last year because no one saw the Commanders or the Giants doing as well as they did. I hate Sam Howell. I do. I didn't like him in college, but I just think that he's doing well with the Commanders. I have them finishing 2nd.
Okay.
I think they have something. It's not going to last forever, but I think they have something.
Do you like him with Bieniemy? Is that the magic? Do you think that's a magic pairing?
Part of that, I think they've got Chase healthy again.
He's out for week 1. He's out for week. Yeah, it's fucking that guy's snake bitten.
But yeah, they're feisty. Something about them. They're just feisty. And
they got Scary Terry.
Yeah. Third, of course, the Dallas Cowboys. Again, these 3 are going to be in the playoffs. The Giants, I think, were a one-hit wonder. I think they got lucky. I think they're going to fall off the face of the earth again. They'll probably give competitiveness like they usually do in the division, but I just don't think they're going to have it to get into the playoffs again. So, yeah, Philly, Washington, and Dallas are going to be my picks for the top 3 spots.
Do you think Hurts is going to regress at all since there's more tape on him?
I think he might struggle a little bit, but I honestly, I really love the Albert O pickup because I think that's sort of midcourt needed. Because they had Goddard and another guy, and they just kept getting hurt.
Yeah.
So if Albert can stay healthy, I think he's a bit leaner. So he's almost like a wide receiver.
Yes.
And so he's going to be another threat to go along with the rest of those guys over there.
So I have one last question for you because I want to know if you agree with me. When the Lions did that weird shit with all the running backs, like we could draft Behan, but we're not. We want Gibbs and we'll get rid of Swift. Swift is an Eagle. And so it's a 2-part question. Do you like Swift more than Miles Sanders, like in a vacuum? And do you think that Swift will be better in that system than Miles Sanders? Because Sanders is in Carolina, I believe.
That's a great question. The thing is, like, my impression of Swift is that he's always reminded me a little bit of a Darren Sproles or a Reggie Bush. Like he's like a scat back. It's not to say he's not tough, but you know, you and I always talk about backs, and like there are certain backs that are like bruisers, and he's not really one of those guys. So if Philly is going to use him as like a pounding back, that's a mistake.
Yeah,
you got to get him out in the open field, let him use his speed, and he'll kill teams with that. Who else do they have on the roster? Sanders is gone. Who else do they have?
no one of note. They have, I think, a holdover. They have a third down back, but they use Sanders really more as kind of like a Reggie Bush light. And so I think Swift's issues, apparently Detroit got rid of him because of durability.
He's been hurt.
So that
but
is
they tried the same shit. They their backs. They tried
they haven't had a back since Barry Sanders. So it's for me, I love it. Like I'm targeting him in fantasy because he's going to run some routes. He's going to be a dump off guy, and with Brown and the other wide receiver, Devontae Smith, and then the tight ends that they have, it's going to be really, really hard to leave a coverage linebacker on Swift, and he's lethal in the open field. So I think that what's going to help Hurts is, okay, they have me on tape. They know my passing tendencies. They're going to be able to stop some of our short yardage stuff, presumably. But now I have a weapon to counteract some of the things that they're doing to counteract me. And I think that Hurts won't be as efficient as a passer because his efficiency numbers are just insane. It's hard to be that efficient once in a career, let alone do it consistently. But I think that for you, as you're looking at how they're doing it, it's just there's so many weapons on that team that surround a really good offensive line, and their play calling is nothing to fuck with.
And who did they learn that from?
Doug Peterson, who they fired.
Who when you look at their team now, who are they mimicking?
Oh, I see where you're going with it. I see where you're going
the
with
one
it.
team they lost to in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I want to see if they can overcome losing their offensive coordinator, because that's always interesting.
But I'm seeing what they're doing. Like they're trying to get more weapons, more speed, because that's what killed them.
Yeah.
Like aside from the turnover, but they just like in the second half, the Chiefs were just like lighting them up with the backs and everything.
They couldn't get their defense off the field, and that defense was not completely awful in the second half, but you saw it at the end of the game.
No, it's a great defense, and Chiefs, Andy Reid and the Chiefs just found a way to break it down.
And a lot of that was dump off pass, off. I see you brought two high safeties, dump off pass.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, you're clogging the middle, so I can't throw to Kelsey. That's fine. Juju Smith-Schuster or
Andy Reid said, "Okay, Doug Peterson, I really respect you. I like this team. It's tough. It's gritty, but I'm gonna find the holes that I can tire your ass out, and we're gonna do that."
Yeah, and Mahomes overcame the Tyreek Hill departure because last year he played more within the system. Where I'm not saying he's a system quarterback, but he played more than a read system, other than just LOL Mahomes does Mahomes stuff.
Yeah, didn't they get rid of McCole Hardman too? Because
I think he signed somewhere else. I think they couldn't pay him what he wanted. And Juju,
the fact that the Chiefs, because like they started out kind of rough, so the fact that they still won a Super Bowl is pretty impressive. And then their defense was like lights out.
Better, we'll see what they are without Chris Jones. But I'll get to them in a second. I just wanted to pick your brain because I love the DeAndre Swift addition. Like I thought that was earth shattering, and it's not been talked about enough. But I could be wrong.
The more weapons you can add, the better, because you need it. You know, but as you said, we said this about Buffalo at one point. It's like you're gonna have to have a guy that can hit between the numbers. Like Swift's really, and
it can't always be your quarterback, because that's what happened to Allen. Allen's gotten hurt because you can't run. You can only run to so many middle linebackers. Like that shit fucking sucks. Or some safety who's just hurling himself at you because that's his only chance to tackle you. So I'm sorry for derailing. I found the Eagles fascinating because it's hard for me to pick a team that lost in the Super Bowl to get back, but they merit serious consideration.
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest Hurts fan. We talked about it last year, but I was so impressed with what he did that I'm rooting for him. So To me, I like Prescott, but Hurts is right now the better quarterback because like he seems to, at least in most games, the Super Bowl is kind of like a side thing. He still played very well.
Just that awful turnover.
But he steps up when he needs to. Dak has yet to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Neko, let's go to you real quick. NFC East, who do you got?
I'm gonna kind of put it like basically where they ended last year. I feel like everybody's about the same. I know that sounds terrible, but could be good. I mean, like the Eagles are amazing, clearly, and Cowboys could do it or not, but
I got a solid squad.
They do.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that their record was as great as it was. I mean, 12-5 is nothing to be like sad about at all. And I just like the Giants and the Commanders you could flip flop them. I don't think there's a lot of hope for either one of those teams. I love all the like the memes and the jokes about Cowboys are loser. You know what I mean? But then I had to look at their record from last year, and I'm kind of looking at it literally right now going,
well, the issue has never really been about them being so much losers as they've been choking a lot the last few years.
But they get hit with those loser memes because everybody hates them. So it's the double down, and I have a soft spot for them, but the memes are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I was a Cowboy fan before a Bronco fan, so like I've always kind of semi-supported them, but I understand why people like give them shit because
their fans are they're not bad fans. They're obnoxious, but they're not like Eagle obnoxious or New York Nick obnoxious. They're just so wide-eyed and optimistic, and it's almost
every year we're gonna win it. It's like fans. Like, you ain't winning shit, dude.
You're winning another number 1 draft pick to fucking squander. That's what you're winning.
It always cracks us up because we live in Baltimore, but we just kind of end up following Baltimore anyway. Because
you have no choice. Yeah.
The Baltimore fans are the biggest assholes to the entire team when they lose. They're like, fuck the Ravens.
So are we.
Choke.
You want a hot take? Yeah, you want a hot take? Baltimore is just the discount version. Baltimore fans are just the discount version of Philadelphia Eagle fans.
True.
They're just the generic Costco. Yeah, it's dead facts.
Generic Costco.
Yeah.
I mean, they both have jails in their fucking stadium, so might as well. And they're an hour away from us.
Yep. They're not as classy as Pittsburgh.
All right, Poet, what do you got?
So I almost picked the Cowboys to win the division. I'm a huge fan of Tony Pollard, and I think that him getting the more touches is good for them. The Brandon Cooks acquisition, like that guy bounces around league to league to league, but he's good for 1,000. Yeah, Brandon. He was drafted by the Saints, and then he went to the Patriots for a year. They got rid of him, and Tom Brady was like, "No, he can run a fly route. Why, Bill? Why?" And then he was in the Texans for a while. They made him hate football. He almost retired, is what I read. Now he's with the Cowboys. He's happy to be there. CeeDee Lamb's really good. He's overrated because he's a Cowboy, but they have a really strong skill position. Their offensive line is not as good as it used to be, but it's still good. It used to be great. Here's my concern, because I love Micah Parsons. I think he's the best defensive player in football. This is my concern with them. Mike McCarthy had a quote, and it horrified me. Whenever I hear a coach say something that flies in the face of what is winning and what is working, not like I have a different stand, but just like completely flies in the face of it, I get nervous. And what he said was, I love Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator that they fired, but he wants to throw the ball, and I'm trying to run the ball and rest my defense. And that's great. And I'm not saying that you can't run the ball. Running the ball is amazing, but it's the sentiment itself of I'm going to run the ball, rest the defense, play defense, and win. And that's not even what got him his Super Bowl. Like, the defense was great against the Steelers, unfortunately. And you know the defensive game plan was amazing. You know, you had Woodson, you had the all that shit. But what got you there was more Rodgers magic than great defense. And B.J. Raji got hurt later on. Woodson retired. What is the name of that linebacker his dad played? He had the long blonde hair. Clay. God, Clay
Yeah.
Matthews. The Clay Matthews band. Yeah. That you know.
He's my boyfriend.
He was, he's not your boyfriend. He is not your bad Nico bad. The point is that McCarthy is out of touch. And an out of touch head coach is bad because he's dangerously close to being like, back in my day, we ran the ball and we were happy, and so I don't like McCarthy. I thought that he rode Rodgers' coattails for a long time. I don't think he's well liked by the locker room. I don't think he's respected. I think he's above average coach who's
he's like
past his
that
prime.
other coach that was there in Indy with Peyton Manning, Carroll. Like he did.
Yeah, it's just ass. And so I look at the Eagles, and the Eagles they love to run the ball, and
Jim
they do
Moore's legend.
Yeah, they do all kinds of great things with running the ball, but they do it in a modern way, and they put more of an emphasis on pass rushing and dealing with the quarterback. And so I think that McCarthy is going to fuck them, and I think he's going to fuck them because Jerry wants a weak head coach because that's a Jerry Jones thing to do. So I have Philadelphia, even though their defense was not as good as I thought, and hopefully they need Jordan Davis to stop the run. They lost Hargraves, they lost Sue, they lost their good safety who he went to Detroit, and then he's out for the year already. But I'm going to take Philly because I think that Hurts is going to be a guy who his stats aren't going to be as good. He's going to pass the eye test, and he's just horrifying to stop with 2 minutes left to go, knowing that he can run for a first down, hit a big throw, all of that stuff. Then we get to the scrubs of the division. I'm going to pick the Giants to go ahead of the Commanders. I have the Giants at 6 wins. I think they're going to take a huge step back. I think everybody knows that you just have to stop Daniel Jones from running. And then my issue with the Commanders is that their defense is good. I don't like their offensive pieces except for Terry McLaurin. I don't like Sam Howell at all. I feel bad that Bieniemy is there. There's also drama because you had the players don't like Bieniemy. He's too intense thing. And I know why he's intense. He's fucking intense because he's like, I want to coach, God damn it. Don't fucking drop that pass. I need a head coaching job. You fucking, go. Like my fate is tied to your dumb ass, and you don't know what route to run. So get fucked. And that's biased because I like Bieniemy, but it is what it is. So that's how I see that division.
All right, so the next two divisions, even though we're going to get to the NFC North, for myself, it's going to be pretty interesting. People are going to be like raising some eyebrows if they haven't already.
So wait a minute, are we going north next?
Yeah, we're doing NFC North, and Neko, you're going to kick it off with who you think is going to finish from top to bottom.
So last year, the Vikings, they kind of went on a tear, and then what the fuck is the name of the quarterback?
Kirk Cousins.
Thank you.
Kirk Cousins.
I could not get his name out, and he's like got the chain going. He's dancing. Yay, good for you. Let's see. There's someone else that I love more than Kirk Cousins, and I think this is his year. And I actually think the Lions are going to
Jared Goff.
Yes.
The Goff switch.
No.
Yeah.
Jared Goff. I think he's got something. I that's so nerdy to say, but like.
I think last year was a good year for him. Like I'm kind of happy for him. Their offense was putting up like 30 and 40 points, but the problem is their defense was giving up 30 and 40 points.
Fucking
and I
bad.
don't think any draft, because we watched it and reviewed it and everything. I don't think they really did much to help it.
The running game, you could argue the running game.
That's why I kind of like I feel like the Vikings made some great decisions, so they're probably going to be number one again. But my heart wants the Lions to be number one. I want them to be winners. I want them to win for once. God damn it!
Now, what about the Bears and the Packers?
Yeah, fuck them. Bears are last. I mean, really, the Bears are last.
Okay, Poet.
All right, I got the Bears #1. Bears #1. Justin Fields MVP candidate.
No,
He's gonna run for 1,200 yards, throw for about 3,500 yards. He's got some weapons now.
He wants me to do this again, and
Just start going nuts.
I love their off season. They still have more work to do, but it's really about the rest of the division. So I look at the Vikings. They won 6 games, 1-score games. They were close. They had the biggest comeback in NFL history.
They got some luck last year.
They're going to be, and typically when you're on the right side of variance for too long, you get fucked.
Yeah.
So
but luck always is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. That game against Buffalo, dude.
That was not preparation. That was tomfoolery.
The gods were smiling upon them.
Yeah, God. Yeah.
Opportunity.
Yeah. No, I completely disagree because sometimes when a ball is fumbled and it bounces towards you, it bounced towards you. You don't practice. You practice stripping the ball. You don't practice.
Neko, there's a reason why. Neko, there's a reason why Tebow was never able to duplicate 2010.
Fuck Tim Tebow. How the fucking terrible.
All right, continue.
So you got. I love what the Bears are doing. I don't like the Vikings this season. I don't like Alexander Madison as their starting back. I draft him in fantasy because he's a starting back and there's value there. Justin Jefferson is eating nothing but double coverage the entire season. I don't know who their second wide receiver is. And I love wide receivers, so that's bad. Their offensive line, not as bad as I thought they were. I was wrong. I did overstate how bad they were. I did not agree that they were one of the best lines in football. Their defense is horrible. They have done nothing to convince me that it's better. They did re-sign that pass rusher who was good for a while. His name escapes me. He missed last season and I think some before that due to an injury. He's healthy. He looked good in camp. They gave him a good deal. That was smart. But I don't see the Vikings as anything more than a 500 team. I look at the Lions. I love Jared Goff. I got blasted for being a Jared Goff guy when he was a Ram. I love the Goff stretch. I'm happy to see him doing well. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. Gibbs is going to be a good running back. It's not his fault that the Lions did weird things to get him. He should be Bijan Robinson, though.
Is Gibbs the one that came from Washington?
He's the running back that they drafted. I can't remember where he played. Jameer. And he was a first rounder. I just thought that he was overdrafted, and I thought he's not as good as Bijan Robinson. I didn't think they should have messed with the running back position anyway.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, it was. I was having a fucking meltdown for hours over what they were doing. But the defense is bad, and I do have to ask myself: Campbell, their head coach, is not a tactical head coach. He's more of a rah leader guy. And with a lot of film of that offense on tape now, and with the fact that Goff. He was great last year. He was pretty good the year before. People wrote it off because it was like empty calorie stats, the same bullshit they said about Matt Stafford because you're mouth-breathing fucking morons. And I will never not die on that fucking hill. But I don't know if their offense can be as good. It's really hard to be consistently excellent at anything in the NFL. And so I do think the Lions are going to take a step back. And I have the Packers, and I do have the Packers making a wild card because I think that Jordan Love is going to be pretty good. He's had a long time to rest and learn and pick up the offense, and he's probably not the quarterback mind that Rodgers was a story that came out. But he's also pretty damn talented. However, the Packers defense is one of the most overrated in the game, and their cornerback, Jair Alexander, I believe is how his name is said, is really overrated. And Justin Jefferson touches his booty holes. Not consensually, but it's okay because it's on the football field, and that's just a metaphor, not literal. Don't cancel me. It's just a joke. Calm the fuck down. Don't do it. So I'm going to take the Bears because I think people don't see them coming. I think Justin Fields is one of the most talented players in the NFL. I think they're going to be able to run the ball, and they're just going to have big plays. And more importantly, it's going to make me really happy because I get the troll wave when I'm right.
All right. Coming in at number 4.
The Bears.
Oh, no.
the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, that's
Oh, that's spicy. I'm going to grab a drink while you get spicy, but I will be back.
I'm gonna hold on then because it's gonna get spicier.
Oh, no. He's picking the Bears at 3.
Well, for me, like I did not realize that Poet had so much love for the Lions as I do. Like,
yeah,
every year I'm like, come on, Lions, you can do it, guys.
The
like,
Lions are the Browns, but with personality and not shit.
and not dickheads.
It's true.
That's right.
Those are
That's
facts.
right. Big facts, only facts. Proceed. I'm sorry.
Number 3, the Detroit Lions.
Oh, he's spicy. He's so spicy.
Oh, it's gonna get better.
Oh no,
Number
this is where this is
the
where I get
Minnesota
triggered.
Vikings.
Oh my man. Oh, we're about to hug.
Now, number 1, the only team to have a playoff spot this year from the NFC North, the Chicago Bears, are going to make it behind Justin Fields.
Oh, this makes me so happy. This makes me so happy.
Because much like Hurts, who these quarterbacks, I've talked to Poet a million times about these hybrids, is that they have to come around to a point where they understand pass first, run second.
Yeah, well, guess what's going to happen?
Fields, I was very harsh on. Now, I'm still there, but the kid can fucking play.
You also like his intangibles too,
yes.
which does matter.
So it's all about growth. And so, we could easily see Justin Fields this year rise above and see Hurts fall below. It could happen, but I don't see it happening. And I think this is the best scenario for Fields. Like, this division is the best scenario for him.
So
Rodgers is gone.
Just listen.
He no longer has to worry about that.
In December, when we're talking about this again, I am going to cut up all of this. And we're going to
No, that's fine.
Here's my troll video.
No, that's fine. But Nico, if you do that to me, I'm going to do all the things that you got wrong. And I'm going to turn into a diss track. See, I'm a 90s and early 2000s hip hop fan. So I grew up with
you gotta
Ether.
do better. You're going to troll like a disco.
Oh yeah, oh no, it's gonna be outlandishly stylish and absurd. But my point is, if you come for the king of poetry, you best not miss.
No, what I meant was
that's right.
I'm not making a diss track. What I was
No, I know.
Is come December, I want to cut this up. Listen to our hopeful selves.
Well, the funny thing is, we all could be fucking wrong.
Yeah,
yeah,
how we feel.
Oh, it's gonna be terrible.
I honestly, I don't have the heart for the Bears the way the two of you do. I have more heart.
I actually don't have a lot of heart, but that, like, the Vikings, like, he and I are actually big supporters of Cousins, but the problem is,
I'm talking about the Lions. Fuck Cousins.
But we're not big supporters of that roster. That's the difference.
Lions have no defense. If you give the Lions a defense, they're a contender.
Yeah. If you gave them the most average, mediocre, milquetoast, like, we have a great corner, but our safety is ass, and our middle linebacker is great, but we only have one pass rusher, like that type of thing, right? Then they would be really strong because their defense would actually be better statistically than average because they'd be with leads.
The funny thing is that they lost a lot of games just because they couldn't stop
anybody. And it wasn't like they weren't trying, and it wasn't like the coaching was awful. And it's not even that all of their players are bad, but it's like you have to have at least a couple stars. Whether they're acknowledged as stars or not, like an actual star player, like, to produce. I'm not even necessarily talking stats. You can have a nose tackle who just beats the shit out of people. Nose tackles don't get stats. They don't have a difference maker on defense. And maybe one emerges, right? Like, they had bad luck. Jeff Okudah, that they drafted 4 years out of Ohio State, was one of the best corner prospects in recent years. He kept breaking his leg, and he's, and he's with the Panthers now, I think. But it's like, his rookie year, he was bad. It happens to rookie corners. It's tough, right? And then he kept getting injured. So on a different timeline, maybe he's that top 5 lockdown corner that makes a difference. It's just, when you look at them, though, we can't project that some 5th round unknown guy is going to turn into Lawrence Taylor and change their defense. It'd be sweet if Detroit deserves it. Like they deserve some of that good football karma.
Detroit in overall is having like the worst luck as just in general.
And they're one of the greatest cities in American history. You cannot tell our amazing history without the vibrant history of Detroit. You can without Cleveland. In fact, you should. The place fucking sucks. All they gave us was Halle Berry and memes for their shitty sports teams. And I love Halle Berry, and I love watching them lose. So it is something.
All right, so what's our next division?
NFC South, and I'm going to start this one because this is going to be another spicy moment.
It's a fun division.
This division, everyone sucks.
The first team, of course, is going to make the playoffs. Now, the next 3, you can put them in any order. I don't give a shit how you want to do it. Mm-hmm. The spicy hot take for DJ Anubis.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Are you taking the Bucks?
The New Orleans Saints.
Ooh.
And not only will they win the division, they will have home field throughout the playoffs.
So they're the number 1 seed?
Number 1 seed.
Oh,
that's Derek Carr. Derek Carr.
That's so spicy. Them winning isn't spicy because they're the default pick. Them being the number 1 seed, that's super spicy.
Now, like I said, the next 3 teams, you have Atlanta second, Tampa, and then Carolina. But that could be in any order. Like it's too much of a conundrum to try to like really figure out what's going on there. Ritter, does he step up? Is it Mayfield and who in Tampa? I don't know.
Trask,
okay.
who almost took the job from him.
Yeah, so Trask may end up still doing that. And then Carolina, who's their guy?
Bryce.
Oh, okay, yeah, Bryce Young. So again, you got a couple of young guys in there, so that it's growing pains. But Derek, he's good enough to win that division.
I think you have a point there. Like,
well, it's a new start, and Derek's going to want to prove something because he feels. He's not the kind of guy to really give you a lot of shit, but he knew the Raiders like dicked him.
They fucked him, and when they do you remember when they basically sent him home and kind of gave them the middle finger?
Yeah.
The defense to that was, well, your contract has an injury clause in it. If you get injured, we owe you more money. And the Raiders are cash strapped because they're the only iconic franchise I've ever seen not have money, which is a different rant, but it's really funny and fuck them. But Derek Carr, he's always been talked about. He's a great teammate. He plays through injuries. He's a class act. He stepped up when all that Gruden shit happened. However you feel about that Gruden shit, the guy from that organization who stepped up and took a lot of the brunt of it in terms of answering questions and leading and all of that, the head coach that they should have given the job to, and they gave it to McDaniels because they're fucking dumb. And it was that guy, and it was Derek Carr. And to your point about Derek Carr, he has never had a defense that was better than 20th. 20th is the best defense he's ever had. He was on several of those defenses in Oakland or whatever, like for the Raiders.
Doesn't matter what's
it doesn't matter. Shit smells like shit no matter where you go. Be that as it may, they had some seasons where they weren't all-time bad, like for individual season, but they were all-time bad if you looked at them like within a 3-year span. Because typically, if you go from historically bad to just normally bad, you're statistically like, hey, I've given up 500 yards a game to 375. Still ass, but one of them is not hilarious. And Carr is going to play in the NFC, which is weaker, a bad division, on a defense that I don't think the Saints have a great defense, but it's solid. And they don't have great.
It's better than what.
And
it's competent.
He's getting out of the AFC West, which is
I mean,
a bloodbath.
The Saints didn't really have anybody. They had Jameis Winston, who's still there as a backup. He's kind of like a turnover machine. Carr is a bit more conservative. Like you can sit there and say he and Jimmy G have a lot of similarities in terms of like conservative play, but Carr can still make more plays.
Derek Carr is also not scared to throw it. Like he's got dog in him. Jimmy doesn't.
Carr was the only reason why that the Raiders were even relevant at all. Like if you take him out, like they aren't even competing for the division.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you then. Like I really think the Saints have a chance. I how I missed
Now, am I
that.
am I
did not
making
realize that
am I
it was-
making a stretch? They're going to win the home field probably, but
But I think they're going to lead the division.
they have a chance. I mean, you figure you play 8 games a year against division foes. If they run that table, all they got to do is like win 5
And
more.
they have arguably the best home field advantage in football. Their schedule's pretty weak because they weren't great last year.
Right.
I don't like Dennis
they're
Allen.
stacked in their favor.
Yeah, they have a lot going for them. And the other thing that I want people to remember, Kamara's still good. I don't know if he is what he was, but his suspension's only 3 games.
Yeah.
And they have a good enough line and some running backs that they picked up. Like they got the cat from Detroit that Detroit didn't want. They should be able to hold the line. You also have to look at the defenses of that division are really bad. Tampa's starting because they're in cap hell. They're starting apparently 25 to 30% of their starters are rookies. That is not a recipe for success. The Falcons haven't had a defense since they had the linebacker crew in the 80s. And I think we can all agree that the Panthers are not. It ain't the Panthers with Luke Kuechly. Like them days is gone. I have strong opinions on how the rest of the division is going to go, but I do pick the Saints to win that division easily.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and go with you. Go ahead.
Okay, so at 4, I'm putting the Panthers. They have a rookie quarterback and the worst line in football that I believe is already suffering some injury issues. Adam Thielen is their number 2 wideout. They don't have anything on offense to be happy about, and they have a quarterback that I like, but he is small, and that line is bad, and that is a bad combination. At 3, I'm going to take the Bucks. They're starting a lot of rookies. I don't think Baker Mayfield, if he has everything around him, is above average. Baker Mayfield, if he has nothing around him, is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. And when you give him average stuff, he is what he is, average. Now, his head, he writes a lot of checks that he can't fucking cash. He makes a lot of boneheaded decisions, but he's tough as fuck. Godwin's coming off of injuries. He's not what he was. I love Mike Evans. I think he's a Hall of Famer, but he's aging. Baker's not really been known to be a great big play passer either, and that's kind of Evans' specialty. They have no running game. Their defense is bad. Like they have some. If you look at them and you're like, "Oh, Evans is going to be great, and Godwin's is going to be great," and they can manufacture a run game, and they have some talented pieces on defense, you can squint and move them up there, and I don't think that's a bad take. I just don't see it that way. The third, a team I'm actually really high on this year, is Atlanta. I liked Ritter more than most. I don't know if he's going to pan out, but this is what I do know. They were the 3rd best running team last season. Their offensive line is better than what you would imagine. I love Bijan Robinson. Pitts is amazing. I wish they would throw it to him more. Drake London is really talented. I wish they would throw it to him more. Bijan Robinson is a dynamic runner. He can run routes. They're going to be one of the most frustrating offenses to play against all year because they're going to get a little over 4 yards on average per run. They're going to dink and dunk you. Ritter can run, and they don't have anything to lose. So
and they gave a lot of people fits last year. Like were taking people to the final gun.
They're a young team, but they're already mentally tough. And so I like them. I like them to get second. I don't think they're going to hit a wild card, but they're going to challenge for that 3rd wild card spot, in my opinion. And I've seen worse teams get the 3rd wild card if Ritter is at least solid. And number 1, I go with the Saints. I think that they're going to be a really strong team. I'm going to put them at the 3rd or 4th seed. And I'm rooting for Derek Carr because after almost a decade of incompetence with the Raiders, he deserves something nice.
Yeah.
He deserves something nice.
I feel bad for all the Carr brothers.
All right, next.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Well, you've really influenced my thoughts because I kind of wrote off this entire division, and I was going to.
Well, sometimes it's easy to forget the trades and people who move.
Yeah.
But
it's a fun division.
I 100% agree with you with the Saints. I did not because I love Derek Carr as well, and that's why.
Just call him Mascara Boy. That's what I do.
You're so petty. You're so petty.
Emo? Is he emo? Is he crying or something? I don't
That's
know.
the running joke. But hey, look, I appreciate what he did. Like I feel bad for him. Like the Raiders fucked him in a lot of different ways, especially down the end.
I
The end
think
of
they
it.
did too. And he was young, and he lost 10 good years.
Well, it's like, Derek wanted to stay there. And the thing is, though, like the thing that really pisses me off about the whole situation, aside from the fact that our Raiders are a bunch of asswads, is, this guy was given everything. And like,
Yeah.
you went and got a receiver in Devontae Adams, but then you got McDaniels as a coach. Like,
And I said,
what are you doing?
Bad.
It was so bad. And
And then you're
McDaniels
just
was
like-
open about not wanting him. That
thing
is so
they kept
disrespectful.
saying, like,
McDaniels, he's like the worst head coach ever.
well, and it shows
Stay
because,
coordinating, please.
again, that like towards the end of the season, they were like, well, we're going to trade Derek Carr. This is a McDaniels thing. You're not even done with the season, but you're talking about trading your quarterback. And I'm like, fuck off, dude. Let the guy finish the season before you decide what the fuck you're going to do.
And you're killing his trade value, because if you're saying
Yes.
I'm going to trade him, now he's worthless, which means
Right.
he's arguably going to get less money. And I know that that's not their concern, but after you fuck over a guy like that and then you send him home unceremoniously, and McDaniels had comments in the middle of the season like, I don't know what we're going to do with Derek and all of that stuff. It was just so frustrating to see a guy who is the consummate professional, who had
And he's
every
still
reason.
Great. Like,
And
I
he's
would have been
still-
like, fuck off.
Yeah, I'll be like,
Bless.
McDaniels, don't make me pull a Peyton Hillis and fuck your wife. Like, you need to calm down, McDaniels, before I fucking take her to Red Lobster and blow her back out consensually. Do not cancel me. But it was so disrespectful.
Okay,
He's
Neko.
so disrespectful.
So I'm happy about the Saints, honestly. And I have no dog in the fight for any of these teams. And when I look at this, one of the things I love about the Buccaneers is they are the Buccaneers.
The only thing I love about the Buccaneers right now is Shaq Barrett, former Bronco.
I just think, like, if you could go to a football game every Sunday dressed up like a pirate, and then you score a touchdown and there's like, cannons and like a big ass pirate ship.
Poet just face.
Sometimes little things like that get wins for me. So they're number 2, and then Falcons Panthers. There you go.
That was awesome. His face is just like, fuck this. What are we
Something
doing?
broke inside of me. Something. I was fighting it for as long as I could.
Wait,
I was like,
Uh,
I was like, you're one of those nerds who, when the Patriots score a touchdown, which doesn't happen much these days, and they fire the muskets, I'd be like, yeah, America, yay!
So, like, we also watch.
dude, do you know the story? Okay, Poet. Are you ready for this? Because
I'm ready.
We've never said this on air.
What story?
Okay.
A few years ago, now this is following the Super Bowl in 2013 against the Seahawks.
This is more than a few years ago. This is 10 years. Oh, God, you're telling him that? No, you can't tell him that story.
The reason why Russ sucks so bad for the Broncos is because when he got hurt the following year, she's like, I hope he broke his leg Theismann style.
Oh.
That's
Oh, the
how
hate.
vicious my wife was about that Super Bowl. So, of course, fast forward, here we have the guy that destroyed us along with his defense that year. And we're hoping for the best because we've been struggling since Manning retired. And this is our karma. This is our justice. That's
You
going
put
on.
the hoodoo on your future quarterback. Future quarterback.
The sad thing is like, I know people look at Russ as he's like a good golly gee weirdo kind of guy, but
Yeah.
he truly donates, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to charity. But I also think because his wife is a celebrity and a singer, he gets wrapped up in that world too.
With Future and the all that stuff, and then he wants to be a celebrity.
Honestly, his heart is always in the right place. He goes to the children's
Oh, he's a good dude. He's
hospital.
a good dude.
Yeah, he's a good
And I'm
dude.
saying, like, the
But
meanest
the comment,
thing
but
in
your
the
comment
world.
like threw me to fuck off. I'm like,
I
holy
said the
shit!
meanest thing in the world about one of the most generous people.
Look what they did to Jesus, right? It'll be okay.
Yeah. All right, next.
NFC West, and we're going Poet first.
Okay, so this is not a fun division. This division sucks ass. All right, at number 4, the Cardinals. They're going to tank to try to get the kid out of USC. They're done with Kyler Murray. I read that he arguably didn't have to be pupped, but they put him on the pup anyway. I don't blame them for being done with Kyler because he's got a lot of baggage that goes with him. On top of he's small, which is kind of a concern. He's a dynamic player. They'll probably be able to get a first rounder for him. And they want to be able to
You don't
get
think they can do that?
with Carson Wentz going for first and what they got for Darnold. You're going to convince somebody. The precedent, Josh McDaniels has already basically been told he's going to coach the Raiders next year, so they'll trade for him because they're dumb. I think they can get at least a second for him. I'm convinced. I think they'll get a first for him. Be that as it may, the Cardinals are really, 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 really lacking in talent, and they have a starting quarterback for 4 games that I had never heard of. So I'm convinced that they're fucked. Third, I'm going to take my Rams, my poor NFC team. I love Matt Stafford, but I keep reading all these reports that he has a bad spine, so I kind of want him to retire so he doesn't die. That offensive line is horrible. Cooper Kupp is elite, but he hurt his hamstring again. He's already day-to-day. Aaron Donald is really the only noteworthy player, big-name player at least, on the defense. There's not a lot of talent there. There's already rumblings that McVay will leave after this year because he doesn't want to do a rebuild and go sign a $20 million a year contract to do television, which he'd be great at. There's rumors that if they're out of it by week 7 or 8, they'll trade Donald just before the trade deadline. They're not going to be good. They would be the worst team in almost every other division, but I think the Cardinals are going to be historically bad. Like, they might be winless. Number 2, I'm going to take Seattle. I think they're going to be disappointing. No playoffs. The argument for them is strong. Young secondary. They started 2 tackles last year, so they're going to obviously get better. Stable running backs. Huh?
Seattle's just going to be kind of like middle of the
Yeah,
line.
I think they're going to be very mediocre. The issue that they're going to have is that even though they have a nice 1-2 punch with Lockett and Metcalf, and they drafted JSN and all of that stuff, they have a lot of good players. I love the Geno Smith story, but towards the last third of that year, he was not. He went from being very good to being very average, and with more tape on him, I just don't think he's anything more than an average to above average guy in spurts. And I think the other thing that really does hurt them is that defense, and I'm still not used to it because they were the Legion of Boom for so long, and they do have Tariq Woolen is an absolute stud. I just don't see the playmakers in other places. And so a lot of the analytic guys really like them, but I do think that some of their players, especially Geno Smith, overachieved. And then number 1, the Niners. The Niners are going to win that division, but they're not going to be a great team. They're going to end the season with 10 wins. I like the Brock Purdy story. I think he played much better than he actually is, but he's a small guy. I've read this interesting article about their blocking scheme. It's amazing, but it actually sometimes leads to guys coming through unblocked. I'll have to shoot it to you afterwards. They don't have a big quarterback who can take some of those hits. And here's the other thing. For their offense, Deebo Samuel, very good player. He has injury concerns. McCaffrey, arguably the best running back in football, but he has injury concerns. George Kittle, at one point was considered the best tight end, or was in that discussion. A lot of injury concerns. Trent Williams, ancient. Brock Purdy, injury concerns. Sam Darnold has had some injuries. They have so many players who are excellent, but they have the most players that are both excellent and elite, and also injury prone. And you have the Bosa holdout as well. I don't know if anyone in that division can challenge them. Even if the Seahawks are better than what I think and they're like a wild card team, I don't think they can challenge the Niners. But this is a brutal, brutal, brutal season coming up for them because I don't think they'll have home field advantage, and I think they're going to be one and done in the playoffs. And here's the hot take coming of it. This will be Kyle Shanahan's last season as the head coach in San Francisco.
Wow.
That's the hot take.
That is a hot take. I'm kind of on the same page as you with your rankings, like Niners, Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals.
Yeah.
But I did not have that hot take at all, and so that's my thoughts. I cannot.
Well, go ahead and give us your ranking of them.
I did.
Oh, you did.
Niners, Seahawks,
Yeah.
Rams, and Cardinals.
Yep.
Okay.
So, are we doing our playoff picks or?
Did
Well,
you,
we're gonna-
Anubis? Did you give us your ranking?
Not yet. I'm
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I
Then
jumped on you.
gonna do that, and then we're gonna do our Super Bowl picks, not the playoffs.
Okay.
'Cause playoffs, we don't even know what's gonna happen.
We don't know what the seed. There's no point until you know the seedings.
True, that's true.
because the seedings mean everything. So
They do.
NFC West, the Niners #1, playoff bound. Seahawks #2, playoff bound. Now the thing about the Seahawks is, I'm just making a guess here. Midway through the season, Smith gets benched. Drew Lock comes in. It's not going to matter much, but it's going to be a change. I think
Shane will be happy.
He is gonna go into lockdown.
Yeah, he's
I actually
Shane is
liked
gonna-
him. I did.
Shane.
like him.
Shane is going to be dehydrated if Drew Lock gets to start some games. I'll let the listeners interpret that how they may.
Third is the Arizona Cardinals. I agree with a lot you said about Kyler. I think he's jumped the shark as a player.
Wasn't he the one where they were like trying to regulate, like they put like a thing on his iPad?
Call of Duty. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you have to do that with your quarterback who is supposed to be a leader, and it's like, oh, he's had 0 hours on his iPad while he's supposed to be studying fucking
he's a
plays.
good kid, and he's a great athlete. The problem
Yeah.
is, like, he is
But
small.
you and I have talked about this.
Mhm.
There is a difference when you come to the professional level that turns you into John Elway, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady,
Yes.
Brett Favre.
Yeah.
It takes you into
No, not Brett. Not Brett.
Okay,
Brett did zero prep.
Sorry,
I'm not.
sorry,
Yeah.
someone else.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers. Sorry. But the point being, talent will take you so far, but when you are really studying, that is what turns you into that leader and gives you the edge on the teams that you play. So for that team to feel like they have to babysit him like he is a child and he is a grown man, and they're like, I'm sorry, you cannot.
Now, keep in mind, not all of it's his fault. Like,
But they put that in his fucking contract.
But that was one that was bad because that opened them up to ridicule. And it made them a meme factory. And two, Anubis, because you and I both had a similar opinion about him coming out. It's risky, but I would draft him because he's dynamic.
But then they proved he would never put the work in. He would.
That's true, but he made Pro Bowls when he wouldn't put the work in. And quarterback hell isn't having a guy like Murray and going, God, I wish you would do more. It's starting guys like old Joe Flacco, like the Ravens had to for several years, knowing I'm stuck with him because of his fucking contract, or looking around and having to be like the Colts. No disrespect to Rivers, but like, and Rivers played well for them as well as you could have expected. But when you're like this old veteran quarterback, yeah, it's like he's not trying to play football. He's trying to make babies. Or when you're running through like pre-Baker, Deshaun Kaiser, and then before that, that's quarterback. Because at least with Murray, like who? Okay, can we agree for sake of argument the best team in football is the Chiefs?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so if I have the Cardinals and Murray's healthy and they have a roster like they had 2 or 3 years ago, right? I know that I'm not a complete dog to them because Murray might go ham and just win because he's Kyler Murray. So I'm not saying that he shouldn't work harder. I'm not saying that he doesn't have flaws, but they also paired him with Cliff Kingsbury, who's one of the worst head coaches in recent memory for so many reasons that we don't have enough time to go to. And they also, and it's not that you can try and make a good effort, but the results are the results when you're a GM or you're a coach.
Yeah, I looked at what happened, and like I know Josh Rosen never panned out, but like you just took a quarterback in the first round the year before, and I'm like, he didn't even play a full season, so what the fuck? I know Kyler, like he's a little bit more athletic, he can do a few more things, but I'm like, if you're a good coach, you should be able to make it work with both of them.
And they fired that coach immediately. And Rosen, to that point, and I get a lot of shit for Josh Rosen, which will never stop, and I understand why. Because when you're always right and you pick on someone for the one big thing that they get wrong a year, you got to roll with it. Hashtag board to the people, of course, that I love. But Sam Bradford started there, and he got blown up behind the same bad offensive line. And Sam Darnold, or I'm sorry, not Sam Darnold. Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh my God.
Sam Bradford. Bradford was considered as one of the best pure passers in football, and he couldn't make it work there. And then Rosen got his ass beat. Yada yada yada. With Murray, I felt bad when he popped his ACL. His body just failed him. He was running. He wasn't, he was just running down the sideline. He didn't do anything risky and all of that stuff. But I think that, they're going to look at him and go, there's a generational talent that plays at USC. Mm-hmm. We are in line to get him because this roster is ass. And Murray, we can get something for him in trade. Doesn't matter that there's a cap hit because we ain't paying anybody anyway, especially the quarterback that we want to draft. We can move on from a good player who's kind of flawed and just hit the reset button. And there's something, and it sucks that such a poorly ran organization is going to be able to get to do that, but them's the breaks.
So, yeah, I got the Cardinals at 3rd, which leaves the Rams at 4th. And it's really more about age with the Rams. And it's like they're at this crossroads now. You got the Stafford thing. You've got Donald's a little bit older. Kupp's a little older. They both, at least Kupp deals with a little bit of injuries here and there. I like Stetson Bennett, of course, but, he looked rough in preseason, so I don't think they're going to go with him early or anything like that. So really it's just, I think the other teams are going to be at least a little more healthy. Niners are going to be a question mark just because, as you pointed out, they do have their own injury issues. But
yeah,
in the end, I think they're still talented enough to win that division.
Yeah, and and it's not like if all of those guys I mentioned get hurt, then that would be a catastrophe. But last year, it was like Kittle would be out, but McCaffrey was healthy, and Debo was healthy. And then Debo was out, but McCaffrey was healthy. And like they're just cycling through that. If they're healthy at the start of the playoffs, all of them at the start of the playoffs are mostly healthy, they're going to be horrifying no matter what the record is.
Right.
But I'm horrified for how much money they have wrapped up into guys who get dinged up. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I'm not saying they're soft or anything. It's quite the opposite. Debo gets hurt because he's a fucking barbarian. McCaffrey's a running back, they get hurt constantly.
And I did actually at one point have the Niners in the Super Bowl. But again, I think the idea behind the injuries being a possibility there is a big one. So I have as my Super Bowl matchup, the Philadelphia Eagles returning.
Mm-hmm.
Facing the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, you're running it back.
And the old adage is, to be the man, you've got to beat the man. So my winner will be the Chiefs. I hope it doesn't happen, but I can see it happening.
Yeah. Nico, who do you got?
I
Understood.
You got you got the Broncos. Just do me a solid, at least be biased.
Broncos, but so I have to say something about. I say my Lions, but it's the Broncos always. But I don't know if you know how much I love Ryan Gosling.
Oh God.
And if you look at pictures of Ryan Gosling and Goff side by side,
see, Goff always reminds me more of Napoleon Dynamite.
No, he looks. There are pictures.
Or no, maybe that was Foles.
That
Nick
was
Foles,
Foles.
maybe.
But for me, in my heart, I would love to see the Lions do something because I love.
Well,
them
if you can
so
send them a few
much.
defensive guys,
Yeah.
I thought,
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna say something like.
I mean, I'll say this.
I thought you were gonna say, "Can you send him some nudes?" I'll be like, "Sure."
I don't know if that's gonna help. Like,
if the
it can't hurt.
Lions ever get there
It'd be
with
beautiful.
Jared Goff, it'd be a good redemption story for him because
the Rams fucked him. They hated him. Like,
well,
why?
he didn't play. He didn't play very well. That was the problem.
I don't think the Rams hated him. I mean, look, he was bad as a rookie, but that happens to almost all quarterbacks. McVay comes in, he makes him a Pro Bowler with a crazy talented offense and a great scheme and a wonderful defense. They lose the Super Bowl. They're pretty good again the next year, and then they trade him to get Matt Stafford, who was a generational quarterback, but people didn't treat him that way because he floundered in Detroit. Now, one thing that I want to point out in defense of the Rams, because they are my NFC team, the Rams, when they're in St. Louis, that was the first pro football game I ever got to go to. And I love LA, and I hate St. Louis. So them moving to LA was just, chef's kiss. But they also gave him a shit ton of money. And not just a shit ton of money, a shit ton of guaranteed money.
Yeah.
And he was in LA banging LA 10s. So Goff was having Goff was having a pretty good time of it, all right? So I like the kid.
He could come to Baltimore and bang like a Baltimore 6.
I don't know what a Baltimore 6 looks like.
Me either.
I don't judge women off of numbers, though. I'm a feminist, okay? So you
Okay. Sorry, I derailed us. The truth is the Eagles, yes, 100%, and probably Kansas City again, 100%. Or because, the division with Pittsburgh and the Ravens is so neck and neck. Cincy was, sorry, I like Pittsburgh too, but Cincy was I don't know what was going on with them last year. They were going up
Well,
they
did
got
well.
divas.
They went on the road. They beat Buffalo. That was impressive.
They beat the shit out of Buffalo.
And they only lost by 3 to the Chiefs. So I mean, they beat the Chiefs
were
the year before to get to the Super Bowl, but they lost to the Rams, and that was just a Rams year. So and Joe was like a rookie or second year.
Second year.
Leg, yeah.
What happened to them is they got big-headed and arrogant and started talking too much shit, and it bit them in the ass.
Yeah.
So if it's not, I mean, honestly, I want it to be my Broncos. I want Russ to cook, and I want him to make something delicious. And the end.
You're getting ramen.
I can't even get some pho.
No, you get ramen.
All right,
And
so
some
you
tuna
say
helper.
it's basically the Chiefs and Eagles again.
I say the Chiefs and Eagles are Cincy and Eagles. I just feel like the Eagles have the NFC. I don't know why. Every time
They're good.
They're
And they improved their offense, like I said.
Yep.
Like the defense lost some stuff, but if they, if they're putting up more points and they're harder to defend, then they're going to be successful. So
Yep.
I'm sure they're modeling their offense after the Chiefs. They're saying to themselves, if we get back, then we have to face the Chiefs. We're going to give them just as much shit as they're giving us.
They gave us.
I think for Cincy, who is always just one under the Chiefs, I think that's what they're going to be chasing that again for the next year.
But here's the thing for Cincinnati. I do want to give them credit. The Bills got really good. And then they were like, we should have beat the Chiefs. And all they did was talk about the Chiefs. The Chiefs got in their head. And then that 13-second thing happened. And I hate to sound like Nick Wright, although I do like Nick Wright, even though sometimes he's insufferable about his Chiefs. But I do agree with him in that I think that game broke them. I really do. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, the Bengals have historically been sodomized by the Steelers. It is very one-sided, and at best they split. It's very rare that Pittsburgh ever gets swept by Cincinnati. And so when Burrow was starting to turn that around, it wasn't like when Palmer did it, where it's like they'd win occasionally, but it was kind of like a weird, almost fluky win. No, unfortunately, Burrow sometimes just decisively beats the Steelers, whether it's a blowout or not. It didn't feel the same. And they asked him, what does it mean to beat the Steelers? And he said, well, respect to them, but it's not about beating the Steelers. It's about winning the Super Bowl. That is their mentality from their leader. And now, and they don't have Eli Apple, they don't have some of the guys who ran their mouth and got a little too big for their britches, as my grandma would say. And so they're going to have a better mentality. Whereas where the Bills were broken, and I don't think that the Bengals are going to overcome the Chiefs. I do think Burrow will win a Super Bowl during its Kansas City down year, or at least get to another one. But the Bengals, especially with that quarterback, have some more gumption to them than what the Bills do, at least from what I've seen thus far.
So who do you got in the Super Bowl?
Can I give you my conference winners first? Because they're spicy and I think you'll like it. Okay. I have the Kansas City Chiefs over the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to make the AFC Championship game. They're going to sneak up on people. George Pickens is going to show that he was the best wide receiver from that class. Watt's going to show that he's the best pure pass rusher in football. Minkah Fitzpatrick's the best safety in football. And I believe that the offensive line is better, even though I have Canada and I need more America. But Canada is still my offensive coordinator. But I love the Steelers, and they're going to sneak up on people. They're going to punch above their weight class. And then I have the Cowboys over the Niners coming out into the Super Bowl. And Jerry Jones will die knowing that his team made one last Super Bowl appearance and Patrick Mahomes moonwalked all over them and the game was over at halftime. So my prediction is the Cowboys losing to the Dynasty Chiefs.
Okay.
Chiefs are just
that's a spicy pick, and I know Chris Grant and Kelly Grant and Miller Man probably love that pick, although they don't want to see the Cowboys lose. But
no, I'm sure they don't. A lot of people are picking the Cowboys because the NFC sucks and they like their roster. So that part's not super spicy. The reason why I'm taking the Cowboys, just real quick, is that I do think it's really, really hard to get to back-to-back Super Bowls as a loser. And if for no other reason than your team made a deep playoff run and they're making another one and injuries start to pile up. So that is one thing. The other thing is, I think
that's very true. Yeah.
McCarthy, while I don't think he's a great coach. I think he's an above average coach with some really, really, really frustrating tendencies.
He's just got a strong team.
He's got a really strong team, and I want to say this because I'm a Dak Prescott guy. Everybody blows him up for those turnovers that he had. If you look at how they're scored, there's a new stat that's coming in vogue, and it's like in the NBA there's true shooting percentage, right? Half of those picks that he threw were deflections. Some of those picks, there was a wideout. Greg Jennings did a breakdown, and he was like, "This pick looks like a bad throw. Looks like a bad throw. Looks like a bad throw." If you look at the route that they're running and the play that was called, they did not extend their route like they're supposed to. Dak threw the ball where he was supposed to. So they're going to clean some stuff up offensively, in my opinion. And some of those picks are bad. I'm not saying they weren't all. But
I don't think that Dak is a bust.
No,
but
he just got killed for the turnovers.
Yeah, and I think
a decent year last year.
And I think that one of my biggest problems, not even the championship game with or not the championship game, but the playoff game against the Niners, like that didn't really bother me because the Niners are good. But their loss to Jacksonville, where they totally melted down, and I'm like, dude, you can't do that. That's a game that you needed, and you were winning the game. And it's not.
Did that cost them the division?
Either. What?
Did that cost them the division? I don't remember what their records were.
But it had to hurt because they were a dogfight between Washington and the Giants, or even the Eagles. So it was like a clusterfuck in that division.
Yes.
So I don't pin it all on him. Like, there's a lot of issues at Dallas that go beyond Dak. I mean, I feel bad. Like the one year he broke his finger.
Yeah, he was bawling out of his mind, and it's. I think with Dak, he's in a situation where quarterbacks get paid. Being the Dallas Cowboy quarterback is always rough, even if you're winning Super Bowls and stuff. The scrutiny is brutal, and if you look at him, and you say he's, I think we can all agree he is good. Like there's a time where people argued he wasn't good. Some people still do. I'm not interested in that conversation because I don't think it's a very good one, to be frank. But people are entitled to their opinions. Live your life. But the question is, I think the more interesting question is, he's really good. He's consistently a top 10 quarterback. Is he going to pull a Joe Flacco where he kind of luck sacks his way into it? Is he going to be good enough to take advantage of that like Flacco did in the Super Bowl? I got to give him some credit. Is he going to pull a Stafford where the first time he gets that real big opportunity that he goes on a run? Is he going to pull Peyton Manning where after enough tries he finally gets there and learns from some of the mistakes? Or is he just going to be the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th best guy in the league and he's not a true force, as they say, force multiplier as a quarterback? And I don't know. I liked him coming out of college. I thought he was underdrafted. I think that some of it. I think
some of
that
was due to off the field things that really weren't that.
him. Yeah, you're gonna have to refresh my memory of that later. But I remember you saying that this is like the NFL teams do a lot of dumb things during player evaluation, and I do remember you being like, "This is especially stupid," which is kind of impressive.
Silly, but because he went after fucking Lynch, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. The Cowboys
Lynch.
liked Paxton more than they liked Dak.
And I wish they would have taken his
Yeah.
Broncos take,
Dak Prescott would have been
more than us.
If you guys had Dak Prescott, your history would be a lot different. And the other thing for Dak and I always want to give him credit for this stuff. He talked about his mental issue struggles after his brother took his own life. When how he's always stood up and been accountable, even for things that weren't his fault. He's a good person as far as we can tell. At one point, I thought Deshaun Watson was a good person because he looked that way. As far as I can tell, he's a good person. He's obviously a good teammate. He's obviously a good leader. I'm rooting for him. I feel like he's one of those guys who, when he came on like gangbusters, he got built up too fast, and now people hold him to a standard.
Yeah.
Part of that's being a cowboy.
Exactly. There are certain things in the NFL, like for certain quarterbacks coming in after Peyton Manning and John Elway, there's a lot of pressure. So
brutal.
Yes.
Being a quarterback for the star is a huge deal. Like it
is
America's team. Doesn't matter what their record is, they're still like one of the highest selling jerseys.
Yeah.
That the Broncos are America's team. There are more Bronco fans in the United States now than Dallas Cowboys.
I don't even know if that's true. I don't think it is. I think you have, believe it or not, you have the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Raiders.
Packers have a lot of fans.
The Raiders.
Right,
the Patriots.
The
Patriots have a lot too.
The survey happened. Peyton Manning was still a Bronco, but yeah.
All right. Well, we're not going to get to much of the college stuff that I thought we might, but that's okay.
No, I talk too much. I'm sorry, audiences. I got a big fat mouth and I run it.
We did want to address the doc that's on Netflix right now called Swamp Kings, and I actually like to call it the Swamp Breakfast Club because we have a good start right here. We had the princess, the athlete, and the criminal.
Oh,
who we never actually talked about.
God, no, they didn't.
Yeah, they never touched on it in the doc, but it was pretty good. I mean, they avoided really talking badly about Urban Meyer.
So what they said was very. So we're gonna get into this. We're gonna do a whole show on it. But what they said about the team is that the college ran that town, basically. So when one of the college football players would get in trouble, somehow it was almost
sweep
like
it up.
Magic.
But that's common everywhere, right?
You got to win championships, baby.
Exactly, and because they had been being so successful, somehow it magically there was like a lawyer who would make things go away. And
those assholes.
Yeah, those fucking lawyers. But that's what you gotta watch this. You're gonna get so mad you might throw something at your television. I swear to God.
I would be curious about, huh?
I was gonna say Urban Meyer is the guy who kept hiring his buddy, or maybe it was the son of his buddy, who was a known wife beater. So yeah, he did that in Ohio State. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious about your opinion on that. So
It's one of the best college head coaches I ever saw. Although when he coached Jacksonville, he didn't know who Aaron Donald was. So that was yeah,
Dude, he totally.
arguably
Well,
yeah.
that's a similar problem that some of these college coaches have when they come to the NFL. Is they think they can do the same shit, and those
Doesn't
players
work.
aren't going to put up with that shit. They get
No,
paid. They're like,
I get
dude,
paid
I'm a
more
fucking
than
man.
you. Yeah, like,
Professionals.
Yep.
yeah, but that's why he picked on that kicker in Jacksonville. He kicked. They got sued. But like Deion Sanders said it. They said, "Do you think you're good enough coach to coach in the pros?" And he said, "Well, of course I do. Like I'm competitive, but I'm not trying to coach grown men who make 5 times as much as I do." And if you think about it, so Tom Coughlin's one of my favorite coaches ever, and he should have been in the Hall of Fame already. He was a hard ass, and it did not work at first in New York, and they dialed it back. I would recommend everyone to watch his football life because he was amazing in Jacksonville too. But he was like, it dawned on me. He was talking about Strahan.
Nice man. Like
Michael, well, he was military kid, Martinet, super strict. He did the if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. And the pros are like, well, it's in my contract to be on time. So what time is on time? That shit just doesn't work for grown ass men. And you have Strahan, who was like the best pass rusher, arguably the best defensive player in the league at that time, being chastised for being on time but not being on time, and he's a locker room leader, and it's like this isn't working. And the Giants were not trading. It's like trading Strahan at that point in time would have been like if the Broncos traded Von Miller a year before he won the Super Bowl. Like they couldn't give you enough picks to do it in the first place, and if the GM tried to do it, the owner would be like, all right, you're fired, and on the way out I've hired my security men to beat the shit out of you for being aggressively stupid.
Right.
That is the shit that like you have to deal with. And Urban Meyer was like, I've heard that Aaron Donald's pretty good apparently, but they have so much control. They have less control now with the name, image, and likeness deals in the transfer portal. But these college coaches used to be able to threaten you with, you could make the NFL, but if you piss me off, I'll just bench you. And you had to cater to them and basically treat them like gods. And Urban Meyer has as big of an ego as you're gonna find. Yeah.
All right. Well, so that's gonna do our show. Now, coming up for us on the Middle Tavern Radio podcast Saturday, Mr. Kevin Lambert and I are doing another review for the Cinematic Synergy with a movie called Porno on Tubi right now.
I remember this.
Hey, have you seen it?
It's been a long time, but I do remember it.
Yeah, so that's it's only 2019, so it's only a few years old.
Wait, what am I? Oh, I'm thinking of Something and Miri Make a Porno or something then.
Oh, Zack and Miri, yeah.
Zach,
That's a really good movie, though. That is a good movie.
Yeah, that might be. I don't think I've seen this one then.
It's on Tubi. It's actually pretty decent, but I'll get more into it on Saturday. And then tomorrow, I don't know if Poe will be up for it, if he's doing busy or anything, but Neko and I doing another When I Raid Alone. We're going to be talking a little bit about the dark side of gaming and streaming.
Oh, man.
A couple of topics I want to talk about with her, and if Poet's for game to be in there, then we can get him involved. What's that?
Why do you have inbred on Hog?
That's what we're going to talk about.
I gotcha. Unfortunately, I have a couple games going, and I have some family stuff. I wish I could make it because that'd be a lot of fun.
But yeah, tell them what you are doing, because I know we shared your information today that you're gaming.
Yeah. So I'm still running my Dungeons and Dragons games online. I'm about to expand out and start running some Call of Cthulhu games, some cosmic horror for those uninitiated. This is Cthulhu. That's not helping. Google Cthulhu. CTHULHU or Lovecraft, the author.
Like this.
Yeah, it goes like this. I'm expanding out to some horror games. It looks like at the end of the year, I feel comfortable saying this now because it does look like it's going to happen. I'll have a book coming out and published. I've started working on a second novel, this time really more of a full-length novel. Started working on it actually last night. I have no idea when that bitch is coming out, and I'll probably not mention it again until it does. So I got that going on. And I'm just living life. I'm working, I'm working from home. I'm getting my writing done. I'm looking at some different ways to advertise. I'm doing this. I'm spending a lot of time with my family. I get to watch my niece grow up and help her with her homework and stuff like that. It's personally, just from a personal level. This a couple years ago, it looked like I would be working 80 hours a week as an attorney. That's not where I'm at. It's sad and a little bit, but by and large, I honestly doing better than I thought I would be. And when I was an attorney, I loved what I did. I love being a prosecutor. I love being a prosecutor in the county that I grew up in. But being an attorney was not good for my health. I am down almost 35 pounds. I've been on a different medication. I've been exercising more. And so I have a good life. It's a different life than what I thought I would be leading. But, life is about adaptation. So I'm just going with the punches.
Sometimes
but sign up for my fucking games. Let me be your dungeon master and make you sad. Yeah.
He wanted to start playing.
Well, I told Poet, I said, make up a campaign dealing with werewolves and stuff, and I'm in. Like, we'll do
let me ask you this. So I know you love werewolves. I know you love werewolves.
Just FYI.
What?
You're 100% playing. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you're fucking queen nerd. I don't know.
Yeah, you're a huge fucking nerd. And you know what? We're going to talk off stream about what a D&D campaign can entail. But I can tell a better story than foreplay in the county or whatever it is that you fucking watch all the time. Regardless, woman, let the man speak. Don't cancel me. We're just friends. We're just having fun. Don't fucking cancel me. Cancel creepy politicians. But do you like fantasy or do you like the Victorian era? Like what's your bag for like a werewolf setting? No, not you. I'm talking to him.
It doesn't really matter, really. I do like fantasy,
he likes
but
modern werewolf stories.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily
Most of
at all.
the stuff that he likes that are his favorite werewolf stories feel more modern, so it would be more of a fantasy feel, not a Victorian.
That's not true though, because I'm gonna talk to you off stream because she knows a little bit about it, but not a lot. But I used to write stories.
Yeah, and this is my point. This is my point for my listeners. The conversation we just had. Do you like this or do you like that? Do you want it centered on this? I tell stories for a living. You tell me what setting you want. You tell me what you're interested in. And it's not going to be like you get everything cool immediately and all that stuff.
The perfect idea. I'm going to tell you.
Exactly. But what I'm telling you is, even if you don't sign up for my games, which you absolutely should, okay? But even if you don't, and you're looking for something to do, and you're looking for something to do where you don't stare at a screen all the time, like stare at this all the time, and you can run a D&D game or play your character off of a phone with an app. I'm not saying you go textless, but if you want something that's social and you're not completely technologically dependent, tabletop games, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, Call of Cthulhu, the Jane Eyre game, all of that stuff, it's a great time, and it's definitely better than watching Foreplay in the County or whatever it is that DJ Neko watches.
The type of games I like are more like trivia games.
Why? You don't know shit.
Oh. All right, everybody.
I'm about to die. Cut the stream. I'm about to die. I'm about to die.
Probably after week 1 of the
NFL.
More talk, and of course we'll get into some college at that point. But thank you all for watching. Please subscribe to the channel.
Thank you, and thank you. That's right. Like, share, subscribe, comment, send us money, send us beer and money.
Your wine and money.
Yeah.
Oh, that send us that too. Send Rihanna, please send Rihanna, and support my friends. They work very hard, very, very hard. If you don't support DJ Anubis, I will break into your house. I will eat all of your food. I will actually not use your restroom. I'm going to do something very unpleasant in your living room. And to top it all off, I'm going to pet your dog, and your dog will love me more than you. So there's severe repercussions to this. Very severe. Very severe.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for coming along with us, Neko.
Just a big boy.